The story begins with a girl trapped inside a cage. The king arrives with his noble friends and commands the girl to sing for them. Arya is the last remaining siren on Earth. The sirens are monsters known for their ability to bewitch others with their song. But instead of living in glory, Arya is forced to become the king's pet and has to sing until she coughs out blood. The girl is in despair and begs a god or demon to help her. She doesn't expect that her wish will really come true. Our heroine is reborn into the past. Arya returns to her 10-year-old self, and this time, she will change her fate. The girl watches as the servants force her new husband into the room. You see, Arya had entered a 10-year contract marriage with this young boy. Our heroine plans to save herself and her young sweetheart. Unfortunately, the boy is unwilling to marry a young and ignorant bride. Arya is unhappy because she is clearly older than him. Lloyd is forced into the room and the servants lock them in. The boy is frustrated and heads over to Arya. Our heroine stares at him as she remembers her past. In her former life, Lloyd was known as a demon who killed his whole family at 18. He sold his soul to the devil and was even accused of killing the emperor. But Arya is the only one who knows this man was her savior. A flashback to the past, and we see Arya being beaten up. The girl had decided to harm the king with her siren song, but the man survives and is ready to have his revenge. He is about to stab her when Lloyd suddenly appears. The Grand Duke kills the king with a single strike and frees Arya from her prison. The siren knows she would never forget this scene even after her death. He offers his hand to her, but Arya can't even move. Her legs have already been broken. The girl is in despair, but Lloyd picks her up. He isn't afraid of the rumors. People say her songs can make men mad, but the Grand Duke has already lost his soul. He even tells her there is no limit to his madness. Arya is touched and makes a vow. If there is a next life, she will do her best to save him. And the girl gets her wish. The young Lloyd interrupts her thoughts. His bride has been too quiet, so he thinks she is nervous. Arya stares at the boy in front of her and suddenly smiles brightly. She grabs his hand and the little child is shocked. Our heroine thanks him for being born and promises to make him happy. Arya's past life is really tragic. From the day she is born, her mother feeds her a drug that steals her voice. She becomes fierce whenever Arya refuses to drink the medicine. Our heroine's father also beats her and calls her useless. The child is unwilling and constantly wonders why she has to suffer. She doesn't understand why her mother never sings to her or reads her stories, but when she turns 10, our heroine discovers the truth. Her mother ends her life by ripping out her own throat. Arya hears the rumors from the maids and realizes that she is a siren. Sirens are mystical creatures known to control humans and heal people with their voice. 12 years ago, Arya's mother was kidnapped by Count Cortez and forced to become his wife. The man drags her around the nobles, showing off the siren he has captured. But after Sophia's death, he grows more violent and beats Arya every day. One day, the child reveals her mother's biggest secret and speaks in front of her father. Cortez is furious with Sophia for hiding this truth, but soon becomes pleased when he hears Arya's angelic voice. He begins to parade her around just like her mother. Arya is forced to sing in front of the nobles and quickly becomes famous. But our heroine wants none of it. She prays for a god to save her, yet her fame only spreads across the country. People begin to worship her as a goddess. Things worsen when a saintess suddenly appears in the capital. She convinces the people that Arya is a monster who has bewitched the king and his nobles. Fueled by anger, the people begin to rebel. The saintess promises to purify the palace, and a war begins. Citizens are sent into battle, and those who refuse are forced to watch their entire families be killed. The holy knights kill everyone in the capital under the guise of purification. And yet, the emperor refuses to let Arya go. Instead, he breaks her legs and locks her in a cage. Our heroine spends years living as a prisoner. Just as she is about to end her life, someone suddenly appears before her. The man offers to help her kill all her enemies. Arya recognizes him as the infamous Grand Duke, accused of murdering his whole family. He reveals himself as a demon and tells Arya to call him when she needs his help. At first, our heroine refuses to seek revenge. But in her final moments, she summons the demon. Lloyd saves her from the Mad King, but she is already dying. He finds it tragic, wishing he could hear her sing one last time. Arya fears her ability has corrupted him, yet the man is willing to go to hell with her. The siren is deeply moved by his sacrifice and, for the first time, feels the desire to sing for someone. Unfortunately, her voice is already gone. Even though she can only move her lips, the Grand Duke still listens. He may be a demon, but he is also her savior. Arya takes her last breath, ready to wake up in hell. Instead, she opens her eyes and sees the small room she grew up in. She looks around confused until she realizes this isn't a dream. The girl has really returned to the past. She is surprised to hear her voice until she remembers that she stopped taking the medicine after her mother's death. Arya whispers her father's name, blaming him for ruining her life. This time, she is going to take revenge. Our heroine rushes out of the room, startling the maids outside. She ignores their frightened looks, desperate to find her father. It is the middle of the day, but Cortez is busy drinking in the wine room. He clearly isn't pleased to see Arya. The girl ignores his displeasure and suddenly begins to sing. Her voice shocks the man, and he can't believe his mute daughter has been deceiving him. He is sure this must be her mother's plan. Cortez becomes obsessed because her voice is even better than Sophia's. He plans to make her his puppet, using her to control the empire. The man falls at her feet, begging Arya to sing again. But the girl only smirks. She always thought her father was scary, but now he is just a pathetic old man. She says this will be the first and last time the man will hear her sing. The Count is confused until Arya says she will make him forget everything. She immediately begins to sing, but this time, she controls his mind to forget the past. Cortez is unwilling because he knows this voice will bring him success. Unfortunately, he can't resist the siren's power and soon loses his mind. Arya stares at the defeated man without pity. He is still in a daze as she asks about his biggest secret. The mermaid tears. Cortez tells her the location and even hands over the keys. Arya rushes to his room, and after some searching, she finds the little box. The mermaid tears are filled with evil energy that can control the sirens. In her past life, her father wore them every day, using it to suppress her mother. He took them off after Sophia's death, but wore them again when Arya regained her voice. The girl is sad as she remembers her mother's death, but she knows her plan would have failed if she returned earlier. Arya is back in her room, admiring the flowers. She still can't believe she returned to the past. Our heroine always thought that she would end up in hell. She vows to change her fate, but she has no idea what she should do. She just wants to avoid the fate of broken legs and a burned face. Because of the drugs she took from a young age to hide her voice, our heroine is destined to have a short life. But she is determined to live properly until she dies at 20. Arya thinks about her next step. She has to hide her identity as the last remaining siren. She knows everyone would lose their mind when they hear her sing. Well, except for one person. Lloyd has already lost his mind a long time ago. His eyes had always been empty, and he would only react when he killed someone. The Grand Duke was known to take drugs, desperate to escape from reality. Arya recalls the events that would happen 4 years from now. Everyone in the Valentine family, including their servants, would all be murdered. The people even gave the incident a name, calling it the Valentine disaster. As the only surviving member, Lloyd would become the family head, but people would also accuse him of being the suspect. Even though the boy wasn't punished, Arya knew he would become empty. She thinks about the man that desires nothing and is determined to change his fate. She wants to spend her short life by his side, making him happy. On the other side of town, a boy is admiring the moonlight. A servant rushes in with urgent news. The boy's mother is dying. The child turns around and we see that familiar face. It is Lloyd Valentine. The servants in the Count's mansion are all in shock. The man has just ordered them to give Arya some new clothes. The maids are unhappy because they think the girl is a disgrace to the Cortez family. The Count had even vowed never to accept his daughter. The women believe the man is just drunk and is only keeping Arya around as a replacement for her mother. The girl is just a decoration. Our heroine can hear their nasty conversation, but she isn't bothered. Sirens are famous for their unnatural beauty. People had never believed those rumors until they saw Arya's mother for the first time. One of the maids glances at Arya and is captivated by her beautiful eyes. She immediately shakes away those thoughts, reminding herself the girl is just a useless mute. She follows the other maids, anxious to reveal the rumor she heard. The Count has sent a servant to purchase new clothes for Arya. The rest of the maids are unhappy until the girl reveals the Count's plan. He is sending Arya away to become the Valentine's future bride. The rest of the maids begin to gloat. They are all convinced that our heroine is going to die. Everyone has heard the tales about the Valentine's brides. The duchy only opens its gates when their prince is searching for a wife. But the women who marry into the Duke's household all die during childbirth. Of course, these are all rumors. No one knows the truth because the women who marry into the duchy all abandon their families. The maids are pleased with this news and soon have an evil idea. They plan to mistreat Arya since the girl is mute and can't complain. Our heroine glances at the foolish maids, wondering if she should teach them a lesson just like her father. Instead, she chooses to spare their lives. She takes out her notepad, ordering the women to bring her some good food. The maids try to talk back, but Arya immediately shatters a plate. She glares at them, scaring those nasty bullies. Our heroine is pleased when she sees the table full of delicious food. The maids try to fawn over her, but the girl glares at them. She is not interested in their fake service. The child smirks because she will make them live in fear, always wondering when she would take her revenge. She orders the maids to get out, causing the frightened women to run away. Arya notices their fear and feels inferior. The child thinks her face is too scary. In her past life, her face had been covered in burns. When she took her mask off, people would immediately become frightened. Arya is sad and decides to continue hiding her face. Days pass, and we see our heroine going on a journey with her father. Except the people seem to have gotten lost. No matter what they do, they just can't find the right road. Count Cortez is furious and orders the carriage to stop. He curses the Valentines, even though he is the one rushing to befriend them. Arya isn't upset because the Grand Duchy has always been strict. Their mansion is hidden in the woods, which prevents outsiders from visiting. They also inspect everyone they work with and never socialize with random families. The girl knows her father is only furious because the duchy rejected all his letters, causing the other families to mock him. Meanwhile, the driver looks terrified as he urges the Count to return. He explains that the road to the duchy is unknown because those who visited never came back alive. The man really regrets taking this job. Cortez is furious and blames the guard for accepting the job. He refuses to turn back, threatening to kill the man if he can't find the way. While the men argue, Arya takes a look outside and immediately notices a weird energy. This place is covered with a barrier. In the Empire, every group has a different power. The Sirens use mythical energy, while the priests have divine power. The wizards use mana, but the spellcasters perform magic. Their powers might be different, but every group can sense the other's energy. Arya is sure this is an illusion barrier set up by the duchy. Just then, the men hear some growling. The guard immediately remembers the rumors about the beasts in these woods. Cortez is scared and blames the man for hiding the truth. They are all terrified, but it is too late. Arya hears their screams and knows a battle has begun. Arya slips on her mask and steps outside to take a look. She immediately sees the injured bodies of her father's guards. Opposite her, we see a man wearing a dark cloak, surrounded by huge wolves. He is clearly unhappy with the unexpected visitors. Our heroine knows she is in trouble. She notices his familiar gray eyes and immediately feels nervous. Just then, the man orders his wolves to kill her. Arya falls to her feet and closes her eyes as she waits for her death. But instead of a wolf bite, she suddenly feels the large dogs licking her face. The poor girl is so confused, she has giant question marks floating over her head. Well, at least she is still alive. The man wonders if his dogs have suddenly gone mad. He flicks their forehead and they immediately hide behind Arya. They have totally forgotten about their master. The Duke is so shocked, he thinks his dogs have gone crazy. He studies the girl wearing a mask, wondering what sort of creature she is. His dogs are super fierce and only respect the strong. They only follow the Duke because he is the strongest person in this world. The man crouches down and studies the girl, wondering if she is stronger than him. He feels dissatisfied because no matter how he looks at her, she seems to be weaker than an insect. Arya knows the dogs are only friendly because sirens can communicate with animals. In her past life, her father had killed all the beasts around her, so she could never use this ability. The girl admires the huge dogs, and when she touches their fur, she immediately falls in love. Her pretty eyes even begin to sparkle. The Duke watches in disgust as the poor girl is almost buried by his huge dogs. He carries her like an insect, determined to take this strange girl back to his mansion. The group arrive at the estate, and the butler scolds the Count for trespassing into the Grand Duchy. He says the man should be grateful to Arya because she saved his life. Meanwhile, the girl is more interested in the strange drink the man has given her. She touches the floating white object and immediately jumps at the feeling. The butler is confused by her reaction, but still secretly whispers that it is marshmallow. Our heroine hears the wrong name and is more curious about the strange object. The Grand Duke can't scold the little girl, so he orders his butler to feed the Count's men to his hunting dogs. Cortez looks terrified, refusing to believe his loyal knights have turned into some dog food. He glares at Arya, blaming the girl for his misfortune. Instead, he sees two large dogs glaring at him. The man is immediately frightened. The butler reminds him that Arya is his savior, but her father remains silent. He only smiles when the butler offers to compensate him. The Grand Duke says they can give the Count any amount he asks for. Cortez smirks with greed as he offers the Duke another deal. He is willing to sell his daughter to the Grand Duchy. He whispers from across the room, urging Arya to take her mask off. Our girl just watches him like a clown. The man is embarrassed but still insists on selling his daughter. The Duke wonders why Cortez had hidden his child, but the man claims the girl is mute. He thinks that will make her a good wife and even tells the Duke to cut off her arms since she can also write. The butler is really furious and accuses the Count of insulting their family. The man slams the table, unwilling to take the blame. The butler warns him not to misbehave since they only accepted him because of his father. Arya stares at the butler, pleased by his insult. Her father has always hated it when people mention his genius father. The butler notices her stare and leans down, urging the little child to finish her drink. Arya can't understand why this strange man is so nice to her. She hears the dogs barking and is immediately convinced it is because of her siren abilities. Our girl is going to use that to her advantage. She shamelessly advertises herself, claiming to be good at taming animals. She can also learn things quickly, so she urges the butler to take her away. The Count is displeased to see his daughter speaking up. He snatches her paper, warning the useless girl to stay quiet. He grabs her arm but sees 3 large dogs ready to attack him. Cortez grabs his daughter's hand roughly, warning the girl to stay silent. He sees the huge dogs glaring at him, but before they can attack, the Grand Duke punches his face. The man pulls Arya away and is prepared to buy her. Our heroine is excited, staring at the man in awe. He looks the same as her sweet Lloyd. Well, except for his long hair. The Duke is confused by the child's stare. He doesn't understand why this little child isn't afraid of him. He had just offered to feed people to dogs and had even threatened her life. Arya holds his cloth tightly, not frightened by his harsh words. She stares at him with bright eyes, determined to hold on to his golden thigh. The Grand Duke can't resist her cuteness and offers to make the payment immediately. The Count is stunned, but the butler is already used to his master's impulsive behavior. Valentine wonders if the man is unhappy, but his butler grins widely. He thinks Arya must be a good person since the dogs also love her. The poor girl is almost confused by his logic and believes the Duke is a good person. But then she remembers that good people don't feed others to dogs. The butler hands over 2 boxes of gold to the Count. Valentine warns the man never to appear in front of them again. He must also forget about Arya for the rest of his life. The Duke threatens to end the entire Cortez family if the man betrays his vow. The Count is still as greedy as ever as he tells them he has another request. He wants Arya's first daughter to be handed over to him. The Count is pleased with himself, but our heroine is furious. Her father is only asking for her child because he hopes her daughter will be a siren. He is still filled with evil ideas even after her brainwashing. The Grand Duke is also angry when he hears the Count's absurd request. He changes his mind and plans to feed the entire Cortez family to his hunting dogs. The butler leads the Count away before his boss can totally destroy him, but he also has another plan. He asks the torturers to take Cortez away and teach him a lesson. They will punish him for his foolish words and make sure he forgets about his daughter. Arya approaches the butler and he immediately changes from a scary gangster into a gentle grandpa. The girl marvels at his quick switch. The man leads her into a huge room and even apologizes for not preparing a better place. Meanwhile, our girl is in awe because this room is more fancy than the Imperial Palace. Just then, she sees a maid approaching. The girl introduces herself as Dana, the head maid and also Lloyd's nanny. The woman clearly loves cute things and is already eager to serve Arya. Our poor heroine is unused to such attention, and even her little fingers turn red. Dana apologizes for the prince's absence because the boy is taking care of his sick mother. She urges Arya not to be upset if the prince doesn't welcome her. Our heroine feels sad, afraid her little crush might not want his new bride. The maid tries to distract her, asking Arya to write down her favorite foods. Our heroine begins to write but finds it difficult. The poor girl has never tasted many foods and has no idea what she likes. The maid is waiting for a long list but only sees Arya asking for some warm soup. The child will be happy if she can have some warm soup that hasn't spoiled. Dana looks just as shocked as we are. The girl thinks the maid is disappointed, so she panics, trying to think of something she likes. She remembers her new favorite, the marshmallow, and quickly writes it down. Dana is confused until the little girl explains. She laughs because the child is too adorable. She still expects more, but our heroine is really out of ideas. She finally explains to the woman that she doesn't know many foods. She is afraid to look at the maid, expecting to see her disappointed face. But instead, she sees the woman crying. Arya doesn't understand why Dana is sad, so she offers to learn. Instead, the woman suddenly leans over and gives the child a big hug. I also want to hug her too. Arya is afraid the maid might be disappointed by her lack of knowledge. Instead, the woman leans over and gives her a big hug. She feels pity for the poor child and tries her best to comfort her. Arya is unused to such affection because she has been treated harshly from a young age. She chose to escape instead of taking revenge. But now Dana's hug makes her feel comforted. Our heroine closes her eyes in bliss. The next day, Arya is admiring the rainfall when Dana rushes in. She thinks her baby miss might be scared and worries about her. Arya isn't pleased by her new nickname. It is truly a crime to be short. She asks the maid not to call her a baby, but Dana only laughs at her. She even rubs our heroine's little head. Arya is stunned by her touch and keeps caressing her hair. She finally understands why the dogs love to be stroked. It really feels good. Dana finds her behavior amusing, offering to stroke her head again. Arya refuses, insisting that she isn't a baby. The maid laughs, wondering why the girl is staring out of the window. Arya's eyes sparkle as she says she was admiring the pretty flowers. The maid is surprised because the Duchess also likes flowers. She mentions the rare plants in the garden, and our heroine becomes curious. She stares at Dana with her sparkling eyes, begging to see the plants. The maid tries to refuse because of the heavy rain, but Arya's pretty eyes are just irresistible. She finally gives in, offering to prepare her clothes. She sees the pretty dresses that the Count brought over and asks the child to choose her favorite. Arya exposes her scummy father, revealing that she has never worn such pretty clothes. He only bought them because she was coming here. The look on Dana's face becomes scary, and she no longer finds the clothes cute. Arya is shocked by her sudden change as the woman says the dresses are rags. She is filled with a dark aura and asks the other maids to measure Arya for some new clothes. Our female lead wonders how her outing turned into a shopping spree, but she is pleased to hear people scolding her trashy father. Dana gathers the maids, giving them a new mission. They have to find the perfect clothes for Arya in an hour. The girls rush around, and our female lead is soon dressed in gorgeous clothes. She even has her own little umbrella. Dana is pleased to see the girl's happy face. She has another present and hands Arya a little rabbit mask. The child studies the bunny ears and becomes worried about Dana's weird taste. She tells the maid she isn't a baby, but Dana just laughs. Arya is confused, wondering why the woman made a mask and is so kind to her. The Duke also never forced her to reveal her face. The girl thinks they are trying to test her by acting kindly. Arya vows to remain calm, but her resolve crumbles when Dana suddenly pokes her soft cheeks. Our heroine's face immediately turns pink. The maid is amused, but quickly apologizes with a cup of cocoa. Arya grabs it, trying to hide her red face. Instead, she falls in love with the taste of the drink. She praises the maid while Dana admires her cute mistress. Arya has never been praised before, and the girl is shocked. But their cute moment is interrupted as a maid rushes in with bad news. The weather is gloomy, just like our heroine's mood. The girl takes a walk alone because the servants have all headed to the Duchess' room. She gazes at the top floor, wondering if the Duchess's illness will worsen today. She recalls the maid rushing into the room, announcing that the woman was very ill. The servants had all left her, urging her to return after viewing the flowers. They had mentioned Lloyd's love for his mother. The child spent all his time taking care of her. Arya finally understands why the prince was devastated after his mother died. The girl knows she must prevent the Duchess' death. That is the only way to stop Lloyd from becoming a heartless monster. Arya is in a dilemma. She wants to prevent the Duchess' death, but right now she is just an outsider. There is nothing she can do. The girl hears footsteps approaching, but when she turns around, a sword is placed right at her neck. The culprit questions her, asking why she is sneaking around like a rat. Arya is stunned to see the boy she has been waiting for. It is Lloyd Valentine. The prince accuses Arya of pretending, only showing her true colors now that everyone is busy. Meanwhile, our heroine remembers Lloyd's empty eyes in her past and is just glad to see him looking lively. The girl's behavior is too calm, and Lloyd becomes upset. He threatens to cut off her head if she refuses to speak. The boy isn't making empty threats as he steps closer, causing the sword to pierce her neck. Thankfully, it is just a small wound, and the prince also feels guilty. He quickly drops his sword, finally believing that Arya is mute. The girl is nervous, realizing that the boy was just testing her. She is so frightened that her umbrella falls off. Lloyd immediately notices her cute rabbit mask. She trembles like a little bunny, and he decides to make that her new nickname. And since he can read her lips, he urges the girl to say the truth. Arya has a lot to say. She escaped her cage because she wanted to become Lloyd's shining stars. She is willing to be his fire and hopes he can burn her anytime he wants. Of course, our heroine doesn't say those words, afraid she might scare her little husband away. Instead, she says the stroking was nice, but her words make the prince confused. The two children hold hands as they hide from the rain. Lloyd is disgusted by this weak human, wondering if everyone beyond the barrier is useless. He feels guilty when he notices Arya's bleeding neck. The boy urges her to turn around and uses a cloth to hide her injury. Arya is feeling touched until she hears the boy asking if she is a sewer rat's prey. The girl is confused at first, but soon understands his question. The sewer rats are the leaders of the underworld, or the sewage. Their workers are also called the rat's prey. Arya never expected Lloyd to be so suspicious of her. She isn't upset because the underworld and the Valentines are long-term enemies. Lloyd finally reveals why he is so suspicious. People raised as the rat's prey are all mute. Plus, Arya's name isn't on the Cortez family list. The boy claims he has a way to identify the sewer rats. Arya is amazed because the rats have spread over the country. They could never be identified, which made the Emperor furious. She's eager to hear Lloyd's mighty method, only to hear the boy asking her to curse the organization. Lloyd reveals his way of identifying the rats and asks Arya to curse the organization. The girl is shocked by his ridiculous request, but he takes it as a sign of guilt. He drags out his sword, ready to end this sewer rat prey. Arya stops him and mouths the insult before the impatient child can cut off her head. Lloyd is barely satisfied as he flings her hand away. He warns the girl to leave on her own because the duchy isn't safe for a weak child. And Arya is returning to her room when she hears some maids talking about Lloyd. They are afraid the boy will go on a killing spree because of his mother's condition. The Duchess's sickness has worsened, and the maids are afraid she might really die this time. The woman has mentioned her last wish and wants to be buried under a cherry blossom tree. Her only regret is not seeing the flowers again before she dies. The servants curse everything, unhappy about their master's death. Arya listens to their conversation, remembering the old cherry blossom tree she saw on her walk. The girl seems to be planning something. Our heroine indeed has a plan. She's going to sing the song of life. Arya has never sung outside because she was always gagged before leaving the house. She feels strange but still begins to sing. Something magical happens as the withered cherry blossom tree suddenly begins to blossom. Arya ends her song and the old tree is now covered in pretty flowers. But our heroine suddenly feels dizzy. Her little body is still too weak to control her powers. Just then, she hears some noises and sees a few messenger birds flying around. She grabs one, whispering a little request into its ear. Arya watches as the bird flies away, heading towards the Duchess' room. The girl can't hold it anymore and finally collapses. Meanwhile, the bird arrives at the Duchess's window, frightening the poor maids. They try to chase the bird away, but it refuses to leave. The Duchess is soon distracted by their commotion. The girls explain the situation, and the woman insists on seeing the stubborn bird. The Duchess orders the maids to assist her as she approaches the window. But instead of a bird, she sees the blooming cherry blossoms. The maids think it is impossible, but when they look outside, they really see the blooming flowers. The Duchess is in awe as she admires the sight. Everyone in the duchy calls it a miracle. Meanwhile, the miracle worker is now in danger. A suspicious figure sneaks into her room like a little thief. The prince watches the sleeping girl and feels a bit guilty when he tries to touch her. He recalls the events that just happened. A few hours ago, the mansion was nearly destroyed as the maids discovered that Arya is missing. Lloyd overhears their conversation and finally admits that he saw the girl. He is sure the weak child is hiding somewhere because he threatened her to get lost. The maids stare at him in condemnation, making the prince feel a bit guilty. He offers to search for the little bunny, and the maids urge him not to scare her away this time. Lloyd begins his search, but doesn't forget to scold the little bunny for leaving. He notices the blooming tree, and the child is shocked. He could have sworn the old tree was withered when he first passed by. The boy pinches his own face and feels the pain. He finally believes that this isn't a dream. Lloyd is admiring the flowers when he bumps into a little bag. He is sure it belongs to that stubborn girl. The boy believes there might be poison or weapons inside, but all he sees is a stack of papers. They are Arya's writing notes, and Lloyd scolds her for being too careless. He decides to take a peek, and they are full of Arya's feelings since she arrived at the mansion. The boy is amused by her wrong spelling of marshmallow, but his mood soon turns dark when he finds Arya's old notes. They are full of words like, "I'm not an imbecile," and "please don't hit me." The last note breaks our heart as the girl pleads for someone to love her. Our female lead finally wakes up and sees a large crowd standing beside her bed. The maids all look worried, but Arya isn't used to their behavior. Dana feels pity for her weak and fragile miss. She caresses the child's head, and our heroine is pleased by her touch. Her cute face almost makes the servants faint. Arya remembers her important mission and sits up, frightening poor Dana. She asks about the Duchess, but the maid assures her the woman is fine. She mentions Lloyd's visit and hands over the storage bag he brought. Arya is relieved to have her bag, but when she opens it, she spots a new pen. The girl is confused because the pen looks very expensive. Dana thinks it might be a gift from Lloyd. Arya is impressed by the duchy's wealth. She notices something else inside the bag, but it isn't a gift. It is a note from Lloyd warning her to get lost. Our heroine is frightened as she thinks the pen might be her farewell present. She asks Dana for advice, but the maid only laughs. She tells the child the prince has ordered them to bring over all kinds of desserts. But our female lead isn't happy to hear this. The girl is afraid this might be her last supper. Arya is forced to take some bitter medicine for her sickness, but the maids reward her with a jar of star candy. Our heroine has never tasted such sweets and is very curious. She takes a bite and her face immediately flushes with happiness. The maids receive another attack of cuteness, causing their poor hearts to nearly jump out. Dana arrives with some flowers and books to make her little mistress happy. Arya is admiring her presence when a group of men rush inside. Her maid says the 6 men will be her personal guards, and Arya is impressed. She notices a foul look on one of the men's faces and wonders if he was forced to be her guard. Our heroine is still thinking when she is suddenly attacked by a giant sneeze. The whole room freezes at the sound, making the girl wonder if something is wrong. A maid studies the 100 things to know about weak people and concludes that flowers are harmful. The women panic, gathering around to discuss. They take a look at their fragile miss and immediately get rid of the flowers. Arya is disappointed when she sees the empty room, but Dana is relieved. She has never taken care of someone from outside the barrier. The servants always mention a barrier, so Arya becomes curious. Dana explains that a barrier separates the Valentine mansion from the outside world. Because of this, the people in the duchy are stronger than others. Our heroine remembers that the giant dogs she saw were even bigger than normal wolves. The girl finally understands why Lloyd refused to let her stay. Dinner time arrives and the maids fuss over Arya, worried the bitter taste might upset her. They are afraid the girl might get food poisoning. Dana warns the maids to treat Arya like a newborn baby since the people outside the barrier are the weakest. Our heroine refuses to accept her baby status, but seeing the people caring about her makes her feel cherished. Just then, she hears a malicious voice condemning her weakness. Arya looks around, trying to find the speaker, and soon notices the mean knight. The man thinks Arya is weaker than him, and he smirks, feeling superior. He has no idea the girl is actually a siren with super hearing. His words are very unpleasant, and our heroine feels disgusted. She waves him over, but doesn't expect the man to mock her for being mute. The maids are enraged and are ready to fight him. But what frightens the man is the look of fear on Arya's face. The knight gives an insincere apology, saying he is just worried about Arya's health. The maids are furious while our heroine glares at him. She suddenly asks about his age, and when he says he is 24, she scolds him for being useless. She points out that her health can get better, unlike his sick brain. The man has been completely roasted and is full of anger. He actually asks a 10-year-old child what she has accomplished. Arya glances at him once more, giving him a final blow. She says her goal is never to become like him. The knight curses Arya, but the room is soon filled with a cold aura as Lloyd appears. He is furious at the insult and immediately draws his sword. He is prepared to end the guard's life until he sees a nervous Arya shaking her head. Lloyd spots her injury and immediately becomes obedient. Well, a sword isn't the only way. The boy walks in with 2 huge panthers, threatening to end the knight's life. The man gazes at the dangerous animals and trembles in fear. He apologizes to Lloyd, but the young boy only scoffs. He orders the disobedient guard to kneel and beg for Arya's forgiveness. The man obeys, bowing in defeat. Arya finds his previous behavior useless since he still ended up in such a pathetic state, but the girl should worry about herself. A furious Lloyd scolds her for putting up with the man's behavior. Our heroine feels wronged because she really thinks she got her revenge. The boy ignores her, handing over a brass knuckle. Arya receives it in fear, wondering if it is used to beat people up. Lloyd explains that it is a symbol of his authority. While he is gone, he is giving Arya his power. He says the girl can get rid of the guard or even send him to the stables. But the prince has a condition. Before he returns, Arya has to find another home outside the barrier. The girl watches him leave, wondering if this is the proper way to chase someone away. A few hours later, Arya is trying to sleep when she hears a strange sound by her window. The girl staggers over in confusion, only to see the cute messenger bird. Arya admires its beauty until she notices a note tied to its leg. Our curious heroine begins to read, and it is a letter from the Duchess. The woman thanks the mysterious spring fairy. She was really going to die until she saw the spring flowers that Arya had gifted her. Their beauty had given the Duchess the courage to live again. Our heroine panics at first, wondering if her identity has been exposed. But she calms down when she sees the woman calling her a spring fairy. Arya is filled with the desire to save the Duchess. She writes a reply to her letter and sends the bird away. The girl vows to save the woman and give her all the beauty in this world. Days pass and our heroine begins to worry about her weak little body. The girl might really die if she tries to sing the Song of Healing. Arya feels frustrated but is determined to find a place to practice her singing. She tries to rush outside, but Dana stops her from leaving. She insists that her little mistress has to get some rest. Arya has learned a few tricks and uses her sparkling eyes to seduce the maid. Dana tries to resist, but once again falls for Arya's cuteness. She gives the child a few instructions, and our heroine happily agrees. Arya begins her search for a practice room, but the mansion is just too big. The girl hears a strange sound before she is suddenly attacked. A huge dog knocks Arya over and licks her face. Our heroine is glad to see her little friend, but wonders how he got here. The dog barks, explaining that he missed the girl. Our heroine is excited because she can understand the dog. The two play around like little children, and Arya is pleased. She becomes upset as she finally realizes why her father killed all the animals around her. Our heroine soon forgets about her trashy father. She rides her new pet, asking him to find a secret place for her. but who would have thought the dog would take her right to the Duke's office? Arya stares at the man, laughing in fear. The butler looks nervous, probably worried about his new Mrs. Life. Valentine is impressed to see the girl riding his hunting dog. He drags her away, warning her to be careful with his loyal pet. Arya is upset because the man isn't careful with her. Her little legs are dangling in the air. Valentine finally sets the child free, asking her why she came over. Arya's mind becomes blank and she has no idea what to do. She can't even address the Duke properly. The girl quickly thinks of a lie and soon shows the Duke her paper. The man immediately looks shocked. The child calls the Duke father and claims she missed him. The butler is moved because she misses a dangerous man like the Duke. He cries as he imagines a story of a sad little child. Meanwhile, our heroine is just fighting for her life. She writes another sentence saying she is happy to see the Duke. Valentine stares at the little child and finds her amusing. Arya was never familiar with smiling. She had lived in sadness, but after meeting her caring servants, she finally learned to smile. And so our heroine gives her biggest, brightest smile. Valentine isn't moved by the girl's smile. He still finds her words suspicious, but Arya insists it's true. She actually misses the Duke because they haven't met since she arrived. The man is finally convinced. But now there is another problem. He has no idea how to play with this child. Arya freezes because her mind is also blank. Valentine thinks for a while and decides to play with her like his son. The poor butler is frightened because the father and son don't play like humans. He reminds the Duke that Arya is weaker than them. The little child had also fallen sick. Arya wonders how rough the family must be for the butler to be so worried. She imagines a scene filled with blood and thinks it is perfect for this family. The Duke isn't aware of her sickness and says the girl is weaker than an insect. He doesn't know what to do, so Arya offers to play with the wolf dog. The man is confused because she claimed to miss him but only wants to play with the dog. The girl quickly says being by his side makes her happy. The Duke finally invites her in, but the smell of cigarettes makes her uncomfortable. The butler knows the smoke isn't good for Arya, so he urges the Duke to send her away. Valentine refuses and instead orders him to open the windows. Unfortunately, our female lead is now suffering from the cold. The Duke scolds her for being delicate, but still pulls off his coat for her. Arya is nearly buried under the weight, but she still feels happy. She becomes confused as she watches the Duke steal away her cards. The man warns her to breathe properly when next to him. The girl doesn't understand because her breathing has always been normal. But when she tries to breathe, she finds it impossible. Valentine smirks at her, and Arya glares at the culprit. But karma soon arrives as the butler drops a mountain of books in front of the Duke. The man begs for some space to breathe, but the butler ignores him. He even adds some more. Our heroine is feeling bored and decides to take a look at the documents. She looks shocked as she remembers a scene from her past. A group of people who had visited the duchy returned with a deadly sickness. Their leader, Viscount Cavendish, had blamed the duchy for their death. He received a huge compensation, which saved him from bankruptcy. But because of this, rumors spread that the duchy was cursed. The Duke is unhappy because those people sneaked into his territory. Yet they are blaming him and asking for a huge compensation. The man is tempted to just kill them all. The butler says it will be annoying, but Valentine isn't concerned. Still, he changes his mind and agrees to pay off the man. His face darkens as he prepares to watch the man crawling around his feet, begging for death. The poor butler is horrified, reminding him that a child is listening. But Arya is thinking of how to stop the Duke. She doesn't want him to compensate the Viscount because the man is known for his gambling. The girl thinks of a plan and tells Valentine she can cure their illness. The man is in doubt, so Arya tells him about her plan. Our heroine says her solution is to feed the men some vermicides. The Duke immediately begins to laugh, which makes the girl frustrated. Valentine is only laughing because he finally understands what happened to those men. He is impressed by how quickly Arya figured it out and offers to get her anything she wants. Another day passes, and Arya once again rides the hunting dog. Her only request was to see the Duke every day, and he said the dog would bring her over. But right now they are going in a different direction. The dog finally stops running, and Arya sees the estate where she was bought. The girl heads inside and is greeted by a group of handsome men. She urges them to keep quiet, but they are too excited to see their cute mistress. Arya is trying to eavesdrop, but the men surround her, admiring her cute detective act. She glances at them, and they are all watching her in awe. The girl decides to play along, and the men almost die from her cuteness. She ignores the bunch of weirdos, focusing on her mission. She can really hear some voices from inside. The Duke has no idea a certain child is listening. Right now, he is acting like a bandit as he asks the Viscount to pay for the parasite. The man is confused, so Valentine explains that the parasites they ate belong to his mansion. Since they took them without his permission, the men also have to pay. The Viscount is terrified and begs the Duke to let them off. Arya didn't expect the man to show up alone, but guesses that all his subordinates are sick. The Viscount claimed it was the duchy curse, but the sickness was caused by a parasite. His men had entered the duchy without permission and eaten some infected snakes. The Viscount kneels without shame, begging the Grand Duke to pity him. Valentine isn't interested in his show of pity and immediately draws out his sword. His butler is frustrated because his boss always resorts to violence. He begs the Duke to have a peaceful conversation for 10 minutes. Valentine is unwilling, but the butler urges him to discuss for 5 more minutes. Arya is surprised when she hears the Viscount offering to sell his heirloom. The man must be really desperate. The Duke is pleased with his offer and urges the man to pay his debt quickly. The Viscount tries to complain, but immediately cowers at the Duke's scary face. Arya is still eavesdropping when she hears some footsteps approaching. The girl doesn't have the time to hide, and the furious Viscount catches her. The man recognizes her hair color and pulls off her mask. He smirks when he sees the girl's face, calling her the Clown of Cortez. He never knew Sophia had a daughter, but Arya looks just like her mother. Cavendy thinks the girl was sold to the duchy because of her ability. He believes the Valentines will also turn her into a clown, forcing her to sing. Her ability will soon catch the Emperor's eyes, making her father proud. Arya trembles, reminded of her past life. Everyone worshipped her, telling her all their secrets. Her legs were broken, and she sang until she coughed out blood. The girl is still trembling when her eyes are suddenly covered. She peeks out and sees a splash of blood. Lloyd had saved her in her past life, but this time his father comes to her rescue. The butler strolls out, not bothered about the Viscount's death. He even accuses the man of mocking their family. The Duke is more worried about his little daughter. The girl's eyes are filled with despair, and she looks terrified. Valentine wants to get rid of her problems and help her hide her identity. He orders his butler to bring a list of the people who attended the Cortez parties. The man begs him to only kill someone once a day. Arya praises her new father and thanks him for his help. The butler can't believe the child is praising the man for killing someone. She truly fits this weird family. Valentine pretends to be aloof, but he still rubs his daughter's little head. A few days pass, and our mighty Grand Duke has turned into a daughter slave. The man stares in horror at his office, which is filled with children's toys. He remembers how it all started. He had bought a pink sofa for Arya, and she had thanked him with a pretty smile. The man soon became addicted, adding some vases and even a doll. Every time, he would steal away her notes of thanks. The Duke coughs but thinks something is still missing. The butler is worried because the study has now turned into a playroom. Valentine drops the idea and tries to light a cigarette. He sees his pretty baby staring at him and immediately changes his mind. Arya is pleased and rewards her father with a jar of star candy. The Duke notices that Arya only eats sweets, so he summons a doctor. But what he receives is bad news. The doctor says Arya is malnourished and her body seems to be rejecting food. The man thinks it might be a psychological trauma, and the only way to help the girl is to speak to her. The nervous doctor explains that Arya can't swallow food because she is hiding her emotions. If she continues to hide her feelings, the girl will never heal. The Duke asks for a solution, but the man has no cure. He immediately orders his men to get rid of the doctor. His assistant appears, asking him to spare the man. He praises the Duke, saying his boss might be able to cure the girl. Valentine remembers the child's praises and believes he has a chance. So when Arya appears later, he asks her to get married. Our heroine doesn't expect a sudden marriage, but the Duke promises her a grand wedding. The girl asks about Lloyd, but the man misunderstands. He wants her to marry his son so she can have authority, and even says she can divorce him when she is older. Arya is worried about Lloyd's opinion. She is afraid the boy might hate her after the forced marriage. The Duke thinks she isn't satisfied and even offers up his second son. The girl rejects the marriage and says she wants to stay by the Duke's side. The man imagines her as his daughter and is immediately pleased. He suddenly mentions Arya's eating disorder, making the girl nervous. The Duke can't understand why she is hiding her emotions, but he vows to destroy anyone who makes her unhappy. He will break their hands if they dare to touch his precious daughter. He kneels before Arya, asking her to stop hiding her emotions. The butler is horrified, thinking the Duke has scared away the little girl. But he is shocked when he sees Arya crying. Our heroine doesn't care if the man is a murderer or a demon. She hugs the Duke because he is her savior. The next morning, the duchy is thrown into chaos. Arya asks for breakfast, but this time she wants some scrambled eggs. The maids almost cry as they run around, urging the cooks to prepare the meal. Our heroine is amazed by the new dish, and when she takes a bite, she almost cries from happiness. The girl eats until the plate becomes sparkling again. The nervous cooks stand by the side waiting for her judgment. Arya praises the dish, and they immediately attack her with different types of food. The girl grabs a candy and thanks the cooks for their hard work. The servants cover their faces because their mistress is sparkling. She's just too beautiful. They cry in happiness because of her praise while Arya watches them with a smile. But the good mood is destined to be ruined as the stubborn Lloyd finally returns. Lloyd returns to the duchy, but this time he isn't alone. He hears footsteps approaching and sees his younger brother. The two head into the mansion but are surprised to see it busy. It looks like they are making a new building. The boys are confused. They summon a servant. The man hands over a blueprint and we see a drawing of an amusement park. Lloyd looks annoyed, but his brother is excited. The servant explains that the Duke is building a playroom for the lady. More like a play building. Our male lead doesn't look pleased to hear this news. Since his father has lost his mind, the child decides to grant him eternal rest. Vincent is confused, wondering why they are sneaking around in their own mansion. The boys stop walking as they notice a pretty sight. Arya is sleeping in the garden, surrounded by many animals. Vincent is amazed, wondering if the girl is a forest fairy. He remembers that she is a siren and is impressed by her ability. The girl has tamed the stubborn beasts, and even the fierce Duke adores her. He stares at his brother, excited to see what might happen next. Our heroine wakes up next to a huge panther and is surprised to see footprints on the ground. She wonders if someone came by. Arya finishes her meal, which makes Dana happy. Our heroine has gained a little weight and she rubs her fat belly. But the child still isn't satisfied. She isn't strong enough to sing the song of healing or destruction. The song of healing can cure any sickness, while the song of destruction can ruin people's life. In her past life, Arya began to sing those songs when she turned 14. But the girl is now in a hurry. The Valentine disaster will happen in 4 years, causing Lloyd to become a demon. Arya refuses to let that happen, so she urges the cook to bring more food. The servants are happy to comply, and another meal is served. Dana notices something strange. Her lady seems to have amazing table manners. Even her walk is graceful. Arya almost feels her soul floating in fear. She had learned those skills after her father's beatings. The girl quickly drops her spoon. She pretends to be sad as she says she is too weak to eat. The maids stare at her in shock, and Arya is afraid her plan has failed. Just then, a fight starts as the servants struggle to feed her. The head chef pushes them away and boasts about his license in meat slicing. Arya ignores the clowns and asks Dana to help her, breaking the hearts of the other maids. The next day, our heroine dresses up like a pretty doll. Dana is pleased and offers to take her to see Lloyd. The child is alarmed because she knows the boy will chase her away. She runs out of the room, ignoring the maid behind her. Arya finally stops at the library. The girl is afraid to see Lloyd and decides to ignore him until the Duchess is healed. She looks around, finally noticing that she is at the library. Arya had chosen this place as her practice spot, causing the Duke to think she is a bookworm. The girl is about to sing when she sees someone approaching. A handsome boy walks over, calling her his sister-in-law. The handsome boy grins at Arya, introducing himself as a genius adopted by the Grand Duke. But Arya already knows him. Vincent was a famous genius in her past life. He was adopted by the powerful Grand Duke, but was later kicked out before the Valentine disaster. The rumors spread around town that he was actually a spy for the sewer. Everyone mocked the boy, and he became a drunkard, wandering through the sewers until he died. The people even gave him a nickname, the Genius of Misfortune. Arya stares at the future spy, but the boy looks too innocent. Vincent doesn't know the girl's thoughts and praises her for reading such advanced topics. Our heroine is frightened because she randomly grabbed the books. She has no interest in these topics, but the boy insists on discussing with her. Arya begins to sweat because his words sound like a foreign language. Vincent praises her intelligence and even offers to share his books with her. He suddenly stops smiling as he reveals his hatred for dull people. He thinks they are a waste of oxygen and shouldn't be alive. He starts smiling again, but Arya isn't impressed. She finally knows why the boy was chased out. He is too annoying. The day has barely begun, but our heroine is already unhappy. She glares at the annoying Vincent, who is also at the library. Every time she sees the boy, she always feels uncomfortable. She also can't practice her singing, which makes her upset. Just then, the annoying child asks her to pick a book. Arya is frustrated because anytime she picks a book, the boy discusses the topic. He would also mock her intelligence. Our heroine asks him to recommend a topic, and he gives her a book for dunces. It is filled with basic calculations. The culprit has the courage to smile, and Arya almost spits on his face. The girl returns to her room, and Dana almost faints from fear. Her little miss is like a furious volcano about to explode. Arya isn't angry at the boy for insulting her. She is just unhappy because he is disturbing her practice time. She has to learn the Song of Healing so she can save the Duchess's life. Arya plans to get rid of Vincent, but decides to spare him because he is Lloyd's brother. The girl heads to the library the next day, but sees the annoying Vincent. She decides to leave, but the boy stops her. He smiles like a demon as he mentions her family's musical talent. Arya's grandfather, Maestro, was a famous musician. Vincent laughs at her, mocking her for not knowing her family's history. This is the last straw, and our heroine finally snaps. She slaps the boy with a book and heads to the piano. Vincent studies the sheet and doesn't believe the girl can play the famous masterpiece. The score was created by the Holy Empire, and no one has been able to play the music. But Vincent is bound to be shocked. Arya plays one masterpiece after the other, leaving the boy in awe. When she ends the show, Vincent is unwilling. Arya spares him no face and tells the boy to get lost. The genius is reminded of Lloyd and thinks they are a perfect couple. He isn't ashamed of being chased away and instead praises his sister-in-law. She is really a genius. Arya stares at the boy who keeps repeating that he is a genius. She wants to admire the flowers, but the boy follows her everywhere, ruining her plans. Vincent praises his own intelligence again, and our heroine doesn't even blink. The child is upset with her for hiding her talent and thinks she is secretly practicing her music. Arya agrees because she has no time to explain, but Vincent only becomes worse as he accuses her of hiding her genius face. He acts shy as he praises his own looks. Our heroine believes the boy has gone mad. After all, there is only a thin line between a genius and a madman. The boy says he is tired of his face card, and Arya pities the mad genius. She notices the book he is reading and pretends to be interested. Vincent says it is the old version of the law book. Arya watches him, wondering if the boy is about to become a judge. He is still reading the old law book, even though a new one will soon be published. Vincent scolds her for trying to change the topic. He still can't believe that Arya is such a young genius. Our female lead already knows she is a genius because her father always praised her. He admired her perfect pitch and wide range. Arya could remember a song even though she only heard it once. But soon, his praises turned into curses. He hated Arya for stealing his musical talent. The man thought he should be the one with such perfect abilities. The girl watched her father crumble and finally understood that she had a divine talent. Her grandfather was a genius composer and her mother was a famous siren. Arya was born with both abilities and everyone worshipped her talent, but the girl never wanted those powers. Vincent says Arya would be popular if she could sing. The Valentines would support her with all their power. He has no idea that the girl has already experienced this fate. The Emperor even worshipped her as his god. Arya's past has taught her a harsh lesson, and she advises Vincent. She says the people that praised his talent would also kill him because of his abilities. The boy is shocked, but she warns him never to live for people's validation. He has to live for himself and stop trying to prove his intelligence. Vincent blushes in shame, and even his fingers turn red. He never knew his sister-in-law was so wise. He smiles because he thinks they are now close. Arya looks frustrated, so he wisely stops talking. Instead, he praises himself again, calling himself the sun. Arya changes her mind and thinks the annoying boy would be stoned to death. She warns him to focus on his work and asks him to get lost. Vincent really thinks those rumors are false. Everyone said Arya was a cute doll, but she is just as strict as his brother. The boy is unwilling and asks Arya what her job is. The girl doesn't hesitate as she only thinks of one person. Her job is to protect her people. Our heroine has found a new hobby. Every day, she rushes to the garden and waits for the messenger bird to bring her letter. But this time, the pigeon only brings over a flower. Arya knows the Duchess must have lost the strength to write letters. She is afraid the woman's condition might soon become worse. Our heroine tries to pet the bird, but it suddenly cries out and rushes away. The girl is confused until she sees Lloyd arriving with a huge black panther. The boy glares at her, and Arya is afraid he might chase her away. Just then, she notices the black panther approaching her. The girl is curious, but when she tries to pet it, the beast moves away. Arya tries again, but the animal keeps avoiding her. She has no idea why it came over, just to avoid her touch. Lloyd is stunned as he watches the two play a game of dodge. He interrupts them, wondering why she didn't use his authority. He scolds her for not leaving, but Arya isn't listening. She is trying to touch the beast again. The prince rushes to stop her, but it is too late. Arya stares at her red hand in shock because the panther almost broke her bone. Lloyd rushes over like lightning, almost frightening the girl. He yells at her for touching the beast, totally annoyed by her behavior. He asks for her hand, but becomes upset when she obeys. The prince is about to die from anger. Our heroine stares at her hand, which has been put in a cast, and thinks the boy is overreacting. Lloyd suddenly calls her a schemer. He thinks the girl is hurting herself, so he can't chase her away. He says she is trying to make him care about her. Arya asks if he cares, and Lloyd flinches. He says he doesn't, but he can't even look at her face. The prince warns her to leave after she heals. Arya stares at him, and he suddenly becomes defensive. He questions her, looking just like his stubborn panther. Lloyd pretends not to care, but still advises her to visit the doctor. He leaves, and Arya is amused by his cute behavior. Another day arrives and our heroine continues her research. Siren songs are divided into multiple categories. Arya tries to sing, but she falls to the ground. The girl is frustrated because she isn't improving. She can sing multiple songs, but fails every time she practices the Song of Healing. Arya knows she might reach her peak at 14, but by then, the Duchess might already be dead. The girl lies on the floor in despair. She knows she will reach her peak if she keeps practicing, but she has to find a quicker way. Arya is about to sink into despair when she suddenly remembers the illusion barrier. Our female lead thinks of a quicker method and suddenly remembers the illusion barrier. The shield is very powerful, so the creator must also be strong. She thinks the person might have more talent than her. She wonders what energy he uses since the barrier felt strange. Arya is busy thinking and doesn't notice the man approaching. The two collide, causing his documents to fly around. The girl takes a peek and is shocked by what she sees. The man is about to scold the girl when he realizes her identity. Arya doesn't recognize him, so he introduces himself as Rice and Stewart. The girl becomes stern as she remembers the Baron. She knows he is a scribe and wonders why he is here. The man claims he is organizing some documents. Arya doesn't find his answer strange, but she still watches him with a suspicious eye. The man is frightened by her look, wondering if she saw the documents. He thinks it is impossible because she only looked at it for 10 seconds. Ryson looks down on Arya and says she will be chased out after the Duchess's death. Arya is still watching the man leave. She has a bad feeling about him, and it seems to be connected to Vincent. The girl seems to have an idea about what they are planning. She heads upstairs and stares out the window. But our heroine isn't admiring the view. She waits for Ryson to step out and quickly summons some birds. She urges them to attack the man and watches in delight as they destroy his documents. Arya is satisfied and turns around to leave. She has to find the person who created this barrier. The girl has no time to search around and decides to ask her little wolf dog. She asks for the strongest person after the Duke, but the dog says it is Lloyd. Our heroine is even ranked as the third strongest person. She finally gets her answer when the dog mentions the fourth person. She urges the wolf to take her to him. Little Doggy leads Arya to a huge castle. This is the Eastern Tower, and our heroine will finally meet the mystery man. Arya is eager to meet the mystery man, but after knocking a few times, she receives no reply. The girl can clearly feel someone's energy inside, so there is only one explanation. The man is ignoring her. Well, our heroine isn't too bothered. She just has to smash the door and go in. Arya feels a little bad when she sees the broken door, but she still has to praise the culprit. Meanwhile, the owner of the castle is about to curse them out. Arya is just like Lloyd. Anytime he ignores the prince, the boy smashes down his door. The girl really picked the right family. Our heroine apologizes and says it was urgent. The man doesn't argue anymore and introduces himself as Callan, a spellcaster. Arya is shocked because it is forbidden to borrow another's magical power. The Valentines are boldly breaking the law. She studies the criminal who doesn't look ashamed and even has his own tower. He really fits the demon castle. Kaelin also studies the girl. The man has some past trauma because other kids always call him a magician. He warns Arya not to call him that because he doesn't perform tricks. He pushes the girl out of his castle, but she immediately turns around and grabs his coat, refusing to leave. Arya shoves a paper into the man's face, asking him to explain the ways to control energy. Kaelin is surprised because he expected the girl to throw a tantrum, begging to learn magic like other children. He is impressed that she understands energy, but explains that not all humans can control their power. Someone who doesn't have a lot of energy will die if the power leaves their body. Only a few people can use energy. And Callan praises himself as a once-in-a-lifetime genius. Arya isn't interested in his story and wants to know how long it takes to control one's energy. Kaelin says 6 years, and our heroine looks disappointed. She can't wait for such a long time, so she asks the man to force open her core. Kaelin is silent for a while before he explodes, scolding the girl for being crazy. Arya might die if all the energy is drained from her body. The man has no desire to murder the future princess, so he warns her to stop those thoughts. The stubborn Arya knows this is the quickest method, so she begs the man to help her. Kaelin refuses because the people who train with this stupid method are those who have a lot of energy. He turns into a scholar and begs the girl to understand herself. Arya's energy is just too faint, and he is afraid she might drop dead a second after her core is opened. Kaelin advises her to give up and urges her to leave. Arya frowns, suddenly revealing her energy. The man is shocked because Arya's energy is just too huge. Humans can't have this much power, so he questions the girl. Arya knows she can't hide her identity because this man is the only one who can help her. And so our heroine finally speaks, revealing that she is a siren. Poor Kaelin is so shocked he can't hold back his curse. Arya reveals her identity as a siren, leaving the poor man in shock. He finally realizes that the girl has been hiding her mythical energy. Kaylin had found it strange at first because the energy she revealed was too weak to keep her alive. Arya actually doesn't need the man's help. Because she has the memories from her past life, she can control and hide her energy. She is only asking for help because her core is now blocked. Kaylin covers his face in pain because Arya is just too abnormal. He becomes even more offended when she says she can control her energy. The girl has been using it even without a pathway. Kaylin is impressed by her talent but still scolds her for misusing her energy. Arya looks sad and explains that she wasn't taught to control her magic. The girl would just sing until she coughed out blood. Kaylin is upset to hear this. Everyone knows the Count is like a puppet master. He kidnapped a siren and after forcing her to give birth to a daughter, sold the child away because she couldn't speak. The man scolds her father for being a scumbag. He is afraid Arya might have suffered, which is why she can calmly ask him to force her core open. He curses her father again, wishing the man was born as an insect. But that doesn't mean he will agree to Arya's ridiculous request. Our female lead knows she can control her energy immediately. Her core is opened, but the man refuses to believe her. He is curious and wants to know why she is so desperate. Arya knows the man might call her crazy if she reveals the truth. But this is the only way to convince him. Our heroine looks determined as she says she wants to change the future. Kaylin is in shock and quickly stops the girl before she reveals the secret. He is sure she has received a prophecy but has no desire to hear about it. Arya is surprised because most people will be curious about the future. Kaylin refuses to listen and even warns her not to change the future. He says every human has their given fate, but Arya is unwilling to carry such a useless destiny. She thinks he is talking about God's will, but the man explains that there are rules in this world. The earth might look like chaos, but everything is flowing according to the chosen laws. Those laws work like a wheel and make sure apples are red or the sky is blue. They maintain the order of this world. Kaylin tells Arya humans can't change the future. If they interfere with these rules, they will only destroy the system, forcing it to create new laws. He tells Arya she will have to pay a greater price. Our heroine can almost feel the ghostly hands around her neck. But the girl knows it is only fair. If she changes the future and saves someone who is supposed to die, she has to pay back with blood. But that doesn't stop Arya. She thinks about the man who saved her and is determined to change the future. She has to prevent the tragedy and stop Lloyd from becoming a heartless monster. Arya is deep in thought and finally notices a loophole. She returned to the past, but still remembers the future. The world should have erased her memories if they didn't want her to change the laws. Kaylin is also surprised and finds it strange. Arya seems to be glowing as she says her will is the law of nature. The laws didn't stop her, even though they knew she would try to change the future. It is because she is now the world. Kaylin thinks she is saying nonsense, but Arya doesn't care. She knows it will be difficult and she might not be able to change the future. But the girl is willing to try. If the world is wrong, she will try to make it right. She refuses to sit around waiting for disaster to happen just because she is afraid of a price. Kaylin is shocked by her courage. He wonders if the girl is just a naive child who truly thinks she can change the world. He doesn't understand why she still believes in the world even though she's been hurt. The man decides to give her a chance to prove herself. Arya grins and asks for permission to leave the duchy. But the only way to do that is to use a transportation scroll. These scrolls can move people between continents and cost more than an estate. Kaylin is upset as he glares at Arya, who has stolen one from him. He keeps peeking at the scroll, unable to leave his baby. He offers to make a doll to replace the girl, and Arya agrees. The man urges her to return quickly because those tricks won't be able to deceive the two masters. He will be dead if they find out. Kaylin doesn't know if he is doing the right thing. He begs Arya to return if she encounters some danger. The girl grins as she rips apart the scroll. But at the last moment, a large wolf rushes towards her. Kaylin is unable to stop them, and they both disappear. Arya opens her eyes and finds herself at Garcia, the Holy Empire. She hears barking behind her and sees the stubborn Silver. The girl is upset and scolds the dog for following her. Silver says it wants to help his master, and Arya finds him cute. She mounts the wolf, urging him to follow the sun. Arya knows the Holy Empire also has its dark parts. There are places filled with poverty, and the most famous one is the Eastern Village. The Empire has even named it the lowest point. At first, it was just an abandoned wasteland, but was soon occupied by criminals. It became a lawless village that even the Empire couldn't control. And that is where our heroine is headed. The girl pulls up her cloak, knowing she has to be careful. But she has barely entered the village when she's stopped by a dunk man. The man notices her hair color and finds it interesting. He is determined to sell the girl if she also looks good. The man thinks he has found a prey and plans to sell Arya off. He is ready to take off her cloak, and our heroine closes her eyes in fear. Silver comes to her rescue, scaring the man away with its fierce behavior. The criminal screams as he runs away in fear. Arya is still shocked because she has barely entered the city but was almost kidnapped. She finally understands why the government gave up on this village. Arya glances at the confused wolf. She asks it to wait behind, but Silver immediately protests. She says the dog is too big and will easily attract criminals. She is afraid they might try to sell him off. Arya leaves the wolf behind and heads out alone. It has become dark, so she knows she has to hurry. She sneaks around the alleys and can hear people begging for their lives. Arya realizes the danger and knows she has to be careful. The girl finally arrives at her destination, an old abandoned building that used to be a temple. No one would have guessed that a holy artifact is hidden inside. Arya is only aware because she still has her old memories. In her past life, the evil saintess had found the artifact in this temple. Arya arrives at the building and sneaks around, trying to find the secret opening. She stops when she notices a spot on the ground. The girl parts the grass and sees a secret door. She is about to go in when she suddenly hears a voice behind her. Arya is alarmed when she realizes that someone is here, but she soon calms down when she sees the man is sleeping. The girl sneaks away quietly, determined to get the artifact and run away. She steps through the door and almost falls over from the darkness. Arya suddenly feels grateful for her siren supervision. She searches around and finally notices a box on an altar. The girl opens the box and really sees the branch. She has found the divine artifact. According to legends, God struck the humans with lightning, punishing them for disobeying him. A lightning strike had hit a small branch, causing it to carry God's power. The branch was then called God's judgment. Arya hides the artifact, preparing to head back. But when she touches the wall, she notices something strange. The girl goes over to investigate and soon notices that one of the bricks can be pulled out. She drags it out and sees a small opening. Arya shoves her hand into the space, digging around like a little thief. She soon finds something, pulling out a golden necklace. Our heroine finds it familiar because the saintess wore it in her past life. She is confused because the necklace has no divine power, but she still insists on taking it away. The girl, tired after her robbery, climbs out of the hole. But her eyes widen in fear when she sees a group of men waiting for her. Arya knows she is in trouble when she sees a bunch of criminals. They snatch the box away, excited to see the treasure she found. But they become disappointed when they see a small branch. They thought the girl was searching for treasure and had been waiting for her to arrive. The men become excited again when they remember that Arya is still here. Since they didn't find any treasure, they can just sell the child. Arya's cloak is removed and the men are stunned by her beauty. They imagine the people they could sell her to and immediately look happy. They even tease the child. Our heroine is upset and glares at the men. She didn't plan to reveal her abilities, afraid of standing out. But since there are no guards around, she decides to erase the men's memories. The criminals have no idea they are in danger and plan to take Arya away. The girl is about to sing when she hears a loud voice. A young, handsome boy arrives, dressed like a knight. The criminals become alarmed when they notice the boy's uniform. He belongs to the Empire's holy knights. They watch him like a strange creature, but relax when they notice his young face. The boy scolds them for bullying a child, but they aren't afraid. They even threaten to capture him too. The knight draws his sword, preaching to them about God. The criminals almost fall over from laughter. They mock him for talking about God, and it makes the boy furious. He charges at them, determined to teach them a lesson. The criminals all look frightened, and we expect to see the men lying on the floor in defeat. Instead, we see the knight bleeding from all parts of his body. Well, at least he tried. Arya stares at the foolish boy, wondering why he came over when he can't even fight. She finally notices his squire uniform and is sure he is just a new soldier. In Garcia, it is easy to become a soldier even without abilities. The criminals plan to sell the boy and are afraid his injured face might lower their price. Arya won't allow that to happen. Since the boy helped her, she is going to save him. The girl blows a whistle, startling the men. They are about to scold her when they notice something approaching. A giant wolf dog jumps out of the woods. Arya thinks the dog is going to eat the men and quickly closes her eyes. Instead, she hears their screams fading away. The girl opens her eyes and sees the cute Silver holding the men's clothes. Arya is happy she didn't look. She has no desire to see a bunch of naked men running around. The girl is ready to leave when she remembers the injured knight. She drags the poor boy across the ground and places him on Silver's back. The girl knows her journey will be longer, but she won't abandon the child. She decides to take him back to the church. Arya arrives at the temple and dumps the boy at the entrance. She knows she has to leave, but she is still worried. She is afraid the boy might fall into despair. He might think the world is unjust because he was defeated by the bad people. Arya doesn't want him to lose hope because there is always a next time. The girl writes a message, praising the child and urging him not to give up. She leaves, hoping they won't meet again. Arya feels awkward. She teleports back to the duchy, but somehow ends up right on top of Kalen. The two are in shock before she pushes his face away in disgust. The man almost feels his heart break. Arya wonders if anything has happened, and Kalen has exciting news for her. The duchy is in chaos because someone is accusing Vincent of being a spy. Arya doesn't look surprised. She just didn't expect the person to make his move so quickly. Kalen sees that the girl isn't shocked and realizes that she was trying to prevent this future. The man is confused because Arya isn't close to the young boy. He wonders why she is trying to help when she won't benefit. Kalen refuses to get involved because he isn't as nice as Arya. He smirks because once the trial date is set and the boy is imprisoned, it will be impossible to prove his innocence. He tells Arya this is the last chance to save the child. Our heroine calls over her loyal dog and urges him to take her to Lloyd. Meanwhile, inside an underground prison, Vincent is shivering in fear. He watches the Duke as the man questions some sewer rats, asking if they have seen his face before. A mean-looking lord is feeling nervous. He never expected the Duke to find some sewer rats, but he smiles because it will also work in his favor. Valentine questions the rats, threatening to take away their master's business if they refuse to tell the truth. The men are terrified and finally confess that they have seen Vincent. When the boy was young, he was popular in the sewage because of his beautiful face. The Grand Duke can feel his head aching. He remembers the first time he met Vincent. The young child had crossed mountains alone without any weapons, just to arrive at the duchy. He was covered in wounds and was wearing rags. The Valentines had tested his blood, and he indeed belonged to their family. The child also displayed an unnatural intelligence. He had boldly begged the Duke to adopt him. Valentine is upset and doesn't care about where the boy is from. He just wants to know if he is a spy. The rats have no idea because they are only prey. Only the most trusted subordinates can become a spy. The Duke is ready to catch a subordinate to prove the boy's innocence. The rat suddenly mentions that he has seen Vincent in the prey den. The mean-looking lord interrupts, clearly happy to accuse Vincent. Valentine stares at him, asking the man if he has also seen the lord. The evil lord begins to sweat and only calms down when the rat says no. The Duke questions Vincent, but the boy doesn't deny the accusation. He says he isn't a spy, but refuses to explain why he was at the prey den. He only says he was foolish. The Duke is disappointed because he is giving the boy a chance. He questions him again, hoping the boy will tell the truth. Instead, Vincent remains quiet. The Duke stares at him, but he has no choice. He orders his men to lock him up. The poor child is in despair, wondering if this is his end. He remembers Arya's words, warning him that his abilities would kill him. He finally understands what the girl was trying to say. The boy is in pain when someone suddenly approaches and grabs his hand. He turns around and sees Arya staring at him. Vincent isn't the only one who is shocked. The soldiers are also alarmed to see their mistress. Vincent asks why she is here when another person appears. Lloyd separates the two, warning them to stay apart. The children look serious, but we have no idea if they are here to save Vincent. Is the boy really a spy? Lloyd appears like a ghost, separating the two and warning them to stay away from each other. Valentine feels his head aching as he stares at the stubborn children who barged in. Lord Beaufort tries to persuade the prince to leave, saying the trial shouldn't concern him. The young prince becomes furious when the man says he is worried about Vincent. He is anxious to hide his caring side, so he tells his father he has another purpose for coming. The Duke immediately looks curious. The children proudly display the divine artifact that Arya had found. But the branch looks so weak and pitiful, almost making the other lords laugh. The Duke is also confused until the branch suddenly begins to glow. The men look shocked as they realize that the branch is a holy artifact. The Lord Beaufort becomes worried, wondering why the children brought the weapon over. Vincent is in awe because he recognizes the artifact. The boy knows it is hard to find one and wonders if Arya has been chosen by God. The young girl always surprises him. Lord Beaufort has no idea what the artifact can do, so Vincent explains. Anyone who lies while holding the holy weapon will be punished for deceiving God. The Lord looks frightened as he asks what the punishment will be. Our naughty heroine mouths an answer, and Lloyd helps her to translate. The girl wants the man to try it himself. The two kids are going to test the holy artifact right now. Lloyd passes the branch to Vincent, asking if he is a sewage spy. Arya gives the boy her support, and the child almost cries as he denies the accusation. Nothing happens, so that means his answer is true. Lloyd wants to know if the boy has ever harmed them or helped others to ruin their family. Vincent nearly yells as he shouts his loyalty. The Duke leans over, curious to know why he was at the prey den. The child still refuses to answer, but swears that he has never harmed the duchy. Valentine is satisfied and is ready to end the trial. Vincent isn't the only one who looks shocked. Lord Beaufort is furious and unwilling. He curses Arya because the nasty guard who insulted her was his son. Our heroine had sent the boy to work in the stables and has now destroyed his plan. The man believes Arya is his nemesis because she always ruins his plan. The redhead notices his boss's angry face and also thinks the branch is fake. He accuses Arya of bringing over a fake branch to deceive them. Lloyd is frustrated and scolds the man for being an idiot. He snatches the branch and hands it over to the man, asking him to prove his innocence. The redhead has barely spoken when he is suddenly struck by lightning. His friends rush to help him while the evil lord trembles in fear. He apologizes, saying he misunderstood Vincent only because he wanted to help the Duke. Valentine isn't deceived and knows the man isn't loyal to him. He reads the Lord's document and the man is just trying to destroy Vincent. He glares at him, wondering if he has a grudge against the child. The Lord stammers as he tries his best to deny. Vincent finally reveals the words he said to the man. He told the Lord his stupidity would reduce everyone's intelligence. But a nasty mouth. He even pretends to be sorry and apologizes for speaking the truth. The Lord knows that isn't the reason, but he still feels like killing the boy. He even has to accept those mean words. Vincent laughs at the man, once again amazed by his foolishness. Instead of accusing him at once, the Lord should have released the information in bits. That would make everyone lose their trust in Vincent. The child mocks the Lord and says standing next to him can reduce a person's brain cells. The boy shows his disdain for the Lord's intelligence, and the man is furious. He knows the child's secret and why he always visits the prey den. But still, he says nothing, pretending to like Vincent. Lloyd shows his impatience and shoves the holy artifact at the man. He wants him to prove his innocence. Arya leans over, whispering into his ears. The prince looks furious as he glares at the men, repeating Arya's words. She thinks the group have all tampered with the new law book. The men all look nervous, especially Rysson. He finds it impossible and wonders how Arya discovered the truth. The men had been very careful, and the only one who noticed their plan was Vincent. That is why the vassals are trying to destroy the boy before he exposes their secret. He thinks the child might have told Arya, but when he glances at him, Vincent also looks shocked. Riken trembles in fear as he recalls the day he bumped into the princess. He can't believe the girl read and understood the documents within a short time. Lloyd accuses the men of ruining their family name. He mentions their crimes, and it is enough to fill a whole book. He stares at them with a cold glare, and the lords are all frightened. The Duke asks Lord Beaufort to explain himself, but the man refuses to speak. He seems to be afraid of the holy artifact. The other men glance at him, making the lord upset. He thinks it's unfair, so he pushes the branch to Rysson. He accuses the man of committing the most crimes and tells him to answer the Duke. Rysson is shocked because he was only following the Lord's order. The man had promised him a higher position. The branch doesn't react, so the Duke knows Rysson isn't lying. The children stare at the men with disdain because they are only making things worse. The Duke draws out his sword, determined to punish the men according to the rules. Arya is afraid of the man's fierce aura and is reminded of the first time they met. Lloyd scoffs when he notices the girl's frightened face. Still, he moves closer and covers her eyes. Vincent feels left out, so he rushes over to cover her ears. We see a splash of blood as the Duke ends the men's life. Lord Beaufort is left alive, and he begs the Duke to spare him. He is unwilling to die, so he decides to expose Vincent's secret. The boy always visits the prey den because his mother is a prostitute. Vincent pales as the man reveals his true identity. The Duke isn't bothered, but Arya can feel the boy trembling. The Lord is anxious, so he exposes Vincent as the son of a prey. Arya finally understands why the boy was unwilling to speak. He would rather be chased out than reveal his shameful secret. The evil lord claims the children of a prey are also prey. Vincent has been visiting the sewage for 5 years, secretly trying to take his mother away. Beaufort glares at the duchy, resenting them for living in luxury. The Beaufort family was once a noble and powerful house, but they soon became greedy for more fame. They married the emperor's sister, becoming close to the royal family. But when the old king passed away, the new emperor destroyed their power, leaving them in ruins. The man resents Vincent because he was easily accepted by the Valentines. He is just a distant relative, but the whole world praises him as a genius. Beaufort thinks it is unfair. He tells the Duke Vincent is unwilling to kill his mother. Instead, he wants her to stay by his side. He calls the boy dangerous because one day he might be brainwashed by his mother. Arya can feel the boy trembling as he moves away from her. The girl grabs his hand and places it back on her ear. She doesn't care about his past because she believes he is different. Beaufort does his best to slander Vincent, but the Duke still doesn't care about the boy's identity. We see a splash of blood as the Duke sends the Lord back to his maker. He really hates repeating himself. Valentine stares at the shocked children and chases the little brats away. The soldiers quickly throw them out and even bow as they leave. Lloyd is about to faint from anger. He can't believe the Duke is also treating him like a stubborn child. The furious boy wants to storm back inside, but immediately calms down when he notices the gentle Arya. The prince is confused, wondering why his anger suddenly disappeared. Arya glances at the boy, and he notices her secret look. Lloyd obeyed her command, which makes the girl grin. Back to a few hours ago, Arya storms into the prince's room, interrupting his reading. The boy isn't pleased, calling her a nuisance. Arya isn't bothered and only wants to know if his authority is still valid. Lloyd agrees, but thinks the girl is greedy for power. He is waiting for her to reveal her true colors, but receives a bigger shock. The girl asks him to obey her command. Arya asks the boy to obey her command, but the prince is unwilling. The girl argues that she has full authority, and the boy can't refute her. Lloyd regrets giving her his power, but he still has to obey and listen to her plan. The kids leave the prison while Lloyd thinks about Arya. The girl surprised him and saved his brother, helping them to destroy the evil vassals. She doesn't want money or power, which makes him confused. Lloyd wants to ask about her desires, but remembers her past behavior. He immediately changes his mind, afraid to hear her strange words. But that won't stop him from chasing her away. The boy notices and stops the nervous Vincent, promising to speak to him later. The younger prince agrees with a nervous smile and Lloyd leaves. Arya notices the sad boy, so she goes up to him, trying to give him some comfort. The girl understands why he refused to reveal his identity. The boy was desperate because he didn't want others to look down on him. He thought he could never escape from his shameful past. Arya admits that the boy now seems a little cute. But she still thinks his shameless bragging is going to end his life. Vincent is a bit terrified because this sounds more like a threat. The girl rubs his little head and he immediately turns red. Arya leaves, but the boy still can't forget that touch. Our female lead is back at the library, missing the little nuisance. Vincent hasn't showed up for days, so she thinks he is still shocked. She thinks about the past, wondering if the duchy searched for the boy after he returned to the sewage. The girl hears a knock as the handsome brat appears again. Vincent has some good news for her. The Duke and Lloyd have rescued his mother from the sewage and moved her to a safe place. Arya is surprised, but finally gets her answer. The Duke and his son must have searched for Vincent in her past life, but the only thing they met was his cold corpse. The girl considers this a step to changing the Valentine disaster. Vincent interrupts her thoughts, curious to know why she helped him. Arya says she always helps her people, and the boy thinks he is one of them. He becomes upset when she says she only did it for Lloyd. The boy wants to become her family, but Arya refuses to give him a chance. He almost turns into a small volcano, which makes the girl amused. She tells him to work hard, but the boy only pouts. She threatens to change her mind, so he promises to put in more effort. Chapter 32. Kaelin is currently regretting his life. Arya looks unbothered while the poor man is sweating. The two stand before the Duke, who questions them about the holy artifact. He doesn't believe the girl found it in Kaelin's tower. The spellcaster blames Arya for dragging him into this mess, but says she begged him for the artifact. The Duke is furious because Arya has never asked him for anything. A dark hole appears behind him when he hears that she is begging another man. Kaelin almost dies from fright and quickly changes his words. He says the girl politely asked for the artifact. The Duke becomes more upset, and the flames of revenge appear on his body. He couldn't believe his precious baby was asking another man. Arya watches with a smile as the innocent Kaelin is tortured. The spellcaster manages to survive, and the two return to his castle. Arya hands over the necklace, and he confirms that it has no power. Instead, the necklace can suck out people's energy. It is just like the infamous magic swords that kill people by absorbing all their energy. Kaelin believes the necklace will kill its owner, just like those swords. Arya is confused because Veronica was wearing such a dangerous necklace. She believes it didn't affect her because she is the saintess. Kaelin tries to insert his magic power, but the necklace rejects his energy. Arya tries out her mythical power, but the pendant still refuses to light up. The girl guesses that it needs divine energy. Unfortunately, our heroine plans to stay far away from the Holy Empire. Arya puts the necklace back on her neck and focuses on her main mission. She tries to convince Kaelin to open her core, but the man refuses. He had asked her to prove herself, but now he says he never promised her anything. Arya is furious, calling him a nasty cheat. The man explains that her magic will recover in a year and doesn't understand why the girl is so desperate. Kaelin becomes upset as he remembers Arya's crimes. The girl said she was going to papal church, but instead sneaked out to the lowest point. Arya ignores the fuming man because she is only afraid of the capital. The Holy Empire is known for its healing ability. They think the sirens are threats because they also have the power to heal. Arya knows the church will attack her if they learn about her existence. Just like her past life, they might also start a war. The spellcaster knows the girl is ignoring him on purpose. She must be waiting for him to stop nagging and open her core. Arya doesn't argue, which makes the man annoyed. He thinks the girl is rushing to her death, so he refuses her request. Arya tries to stop him, but the man vanishes. Our female lead is annoyed, so she decides to take her revenge. She begs Silver to bite the man's butt for her. The girl refuses to give up and vows to make Kaelin open her core. Arya is taking a stroll through the garden. She feels worried because the Duchess has stopped sending her letters. Just then, it begins to rain. Our heroine is lost in her thoughts when she suddenly feels someone protecting her. She turns around only to see the little prince. Arya is surprised to see Lloyd standing behind her. The boy is afraid the girl might get sick again. He scolds her for always standing under the rain like a flower. Arya tries to defend herself until he points out that she isn't avoiding the rain. The girl keeps quiet because she is just too lazy to move. Arya watches the flower, making the boy wonder if she doesn't get bored. She always stands in the garden every day. Our female lead is actually waiting for the Duchess's letter, but she can't reveal this secret. She remains silent, ignoring the fuming Lloyd. The boy feels frustrated and regrets coming out. The two are interrupted by an anxious maid who rushes over with bad news. She wants the boy to follow her because the Duchess is having a seizure. Lloyd is upset, but it gets even worse. The doctors think the woman might not survive this time. Arya knows the Duchess will die, but didn't expect it to happen so quickly. The girl is unwilling and is going to threaten Kaelin to open her core. Arya turns to leave, but Lloyd grabs her hands and stops her. The girl is confused because the boy remains silent. He examines her wound and suddenly says he will prepare a house for her in the duchy. Lloyd is willing to give her anything she wants, no matter what it costs. Arya doesn't have time for such nonsense and tries to break free. She orders the boy to let go, but he only hands her his umbrella, urging her to leave. He tells her to find her maid as he walks away. Arya returns to her room and sees an upset Dana. The maid kisses her forehead and urges her to sleep. But our heroine can't get any rest. She knows her rebirth is a miracle, so she must use this chance to save the Duchess. The girl is determined to create a miracle. So while others are asleep, our heroine sneaks around the house. She looks for Silver, but the loud dog almost causes them to get caught. She warns the wolf to keep quiet as he takes her to Kaelin's tower. Kaelin can't believe his ears when Arya tells him her plan. He even asks the girl to repeat her words. Our female lead says she is the only one who can cure the Duchess's illness and begs the man to open her core. Kaelin knows he should reject the girl. The Duchess is destined to die today, and stopping that will only destroy the laws. But the man can't refuse Arya. He stares at the girl's pretty eyes and can feel his resolve weakening. Kaelin slaps his own head, convinced that he has gone mad. Kaelin is sure he must have gone mad. He knows the girl might die if he opens her core, so he decides to create a fake path. The man will activate her core for a little while. Arya is surprised because she thought he would refuse her again. The girl grins like a proud cat, and Kaelin turns his head away from the proud bunny. He warns the girl that her body might suffer from the side effects. Arya still looks unbothered, which frustrates the spellcaster. He can almost feel himself aging. He thinks about his demon boss and begs the girl to return alive. The man is afraid the Duke might kill him. Kaelin cuts open his finger, letting a drop of blood appear. He writes a seal on Arya's head, and we see a flash of golden light. In the next second, it disappears, and Kaelin steps away. Our heroine is waiting for a big change, so she feels a little unsatisfied. The man doesn't give her a chance to think. He snaps his finger and the girl can feel herself vanishing. Arya screams in fear, afraid she might get caught. The next moment, she appears inside the Duchess's room. The girl expects to see the Duke or Lloyd, but the place is empty and quiet. She approaches the bed, but hears the Duchess chasing her away. The woman's voice might be weak because she is dying, but it is still filled with the strength of a knight. The Duchess hears someone approaching and warns them to get lost. Arya stands still as she remembers the rumors from her past. The Duchess would stop her husband and son from visiting her when her sickness worsened. The men, unable to protect their beloved, would go on a killing spree. Arya has no idea why the woman pushes her family away. She might be afraid of showing them her weak side. The girl keeps approaching, making the Duchess furious. But when she looks over, she only sees a little child. She becomes confused, wondering how the girl managed to sneak in. Arya notices Sabina's thin hands, which are almost as tiny as the holy branch. She feels sad as she imagines the vibrant woman from the past. The girl vows to heal the Duchess and immediately begins to sing. Sabina falls into a trance when she hears the song. She sees herself in an empty garden. The woman coughs out blood, expecting to meet her end. But when she looks up, she sees a magnificent building. The Duchess wakes up from her daze and is shocked to see herself alive. She immediately glances at the young girl, certain the child is the Fairy of Spring. The Duchess calls Arya the Spring Fairy, making the child afraid. She is worried about her identity being exposed. But then, the woman suddenly closes her eyes and falls asleep. Arya is relieved, but in the next second, she suddenly coughs out blood. The girl doesn't panic because Kaylin already warned her about the side effects. She can feel her internal organs twisting around and finally understands why Kaylin refused to open her core. Arya is sure she would have died. Our heroine can barely walk, but she still feels happy. She has changed the Duchess's fate and saved her life. The girl rips apart the teleportation scroll and vanishes from the spot. She reappears in the garden, coughing out blood. Arya thinks she is alone until she hears someone scolding her for coming to the garden again. The girl turns around only to see Lloyd watching her from upstairs. She feels worried, afraid the boy might have seen her vanishing or coughing out blood. Instead, he somehow thinks that she is crying in the rain. Our heroine becomes confused until she realizes that the boy is thinking about a movie scene. He probably thinks she is a lonely protagonist crying under the rain to hide her tears. Arya knows it is a misunderstanding, but she is too lazy to explain herself. She will just let the boy misunderstand. Lloyd sighs because the girl always drives him crazy. He suddenly jumps off the building and appears before Arya. The prince pretends to be nonchalant as he warns her to stop standing under the rain. He moves closer, begging her to stop hurting herself. Arya stares at the stern-looking boy and in the next second, suddenly rubs his head. Lloyd is frozen in shock, but our heroine is also surprised. The child's hair feels so soft. The girl is happy, and even rubs his head a few more times. But then she feels strange because her heart is beating too fast. Lloyd glares at the girl, questioning her actions. Arya can't explain, but she is just trying to give the boy some comfort. Every time Dana rubs her head, our heroine always feels happy and safe. She continues stroking his head, hoping the boy would also feel some comfort. Arya says she wants him to be happy, and the little prince immediately turns red. The girl keeps rubbing his head, thinking to herself that the boy looks like a grumpy cat. Lloyd suddenly grabs her hand, pretending to dislike her touch. But his red ears totally betray him. Lloyd pretends to be upset, but his red ears have already exposed him. He is worried about Arya because the girl can get sick just from standing under the rain. He thinks a weak girl like her would definitely die in the duchy. Arya isn't afraid of that. She knows that the Valentine's brides would all die young, but she came here anyway. Lloyd is frustrated by her reaction, so he drags the girl away. The children hold hands as they return to the mansion. The maids notice their wet clothes and immediately panic, afraid the kids might get sick. Lloyd buries Arya with a huge blanket, unwilling to see her sad puppy face. He doesn't know why the girl insists on living in the duchy, but tells her the place is hell. Arya can hear the hatred in his voice. The boy seems to resent the duchy, and also himself. He drags her away, explaining that she can never leave after entering the duchy, but he is willing to help her escape. The prince takes Arya into the bathroom and sets up a hot shower. He even glances at the child, wondering if she can bathe herself. Arya warns him to stop treating her like a child. She takes a look at the hot water, wondering if the boy is trying to kill her. Her skin would boil if she goes inside. But then she remembers that the servants have assisted Lloyd all his life. The boy probably knows nothing about adjusting the temperature. Our heroine thinks he is cute, so she rubs his head again, praising his efforts. Lloyd's hands are red as he pushes her naughty fingers away. He tosses her clothes at her as he rushes out of the room, but Arya can still feel him waiting for her outside. She knows the boy is annoyed because she had fallen sick before. He is probably afraid that she might fall ill again. Our heroine is feeling happy until the boy says he is searching for a new house for her. He thinks he will find one in a day, so he warns her not to fall sick. Arya feels upset because the boy is so desperate to chase her away. Lloyd suddenly mentions their marriage. He says the girl can only divorce him when they're older, so he's giving her this chance to escape. Who would know that Arya would suddenly rush outside? Lloyd is surprised to see her, but the girl says she isn't running away. She knows she can leave their castle and have a normal life somewhere in the duchy. She can even ignore the Valentine disaster, but Arya knows she will regret it. She tells Lloyd they can get a divorce 10 years later and asks the boy to marry her. Lloyd is surprised because who would want to get married and have a divorce 10 years later? He is confused by Arya's behavior because she isn't greedy for money or power. She doesn't even care about her safety, so he has no idea what she wants. Arya suddenly pulls him closer and gives the child a peck. They both stand in silence, shocked by this sudden action. The prince touches his cheek and immediately turns red. Our heroine, feeling guilty, quickly runs back into the bathroom. She pretends to be deaf, ignoring the boy screaming at her to open the door. But Arya can't ignore her racing heart. Dana rushes into Arya's room, afraid her little miss might have fallen sick. Instead, she sees a strange scene. The little girl looks fine, but the prince has a dark look on his face. The maid becomes defensive, accusing the lord of threatening her mistress. Arya doesn't stop her because after that peck, she also thought her life was in danger. She glances at Lloyd, who is surrounded by a dark, evil energy. Yep, the boy is still furious. Dana notices their weird energy and becomes curious. Lloyd frowns, but ends up sighing in frustration. He scolds the reckless bunny, who pretends to be innocent. The prince rubs his face and almost reveals that this is his first kiss. Unfortunately, Arya catches on and becomes nervous. She thought the boy would be like the other nobles who greet others with a kiss. The girl can't control her curiosity and asks the dreaded question. We can see the flames of fury rising above the prince's head. But the next second, he suddenly calms down and asks Arya why she is so desperate to marry him. Our heroine knows her answer will determine her future. She will either be chased out or allowed to marry Lloyd. The girl decides to be honest, revealing that she is trying to make her savior happy. Lloyd is confused by her reply, but before she can explain, a servant rushes in screaming about a miracle. The man eagerly announces that the Duchess has woken up. Lloyd is surprised, but only thinks that she has passed through the worst stage. The servant stops him and explains that the Duchess is now healthy. Our male lead doesn't believe him, accusing the man of saying nonsense. But Arya can see his hands trembling as he grips his sword. The servant swears that the Duchess is healthy and is only a little weak from staying too long in bed. Lloyd eagerly leaves to see his mother, and our heroine is left alone. The girl suddenly stumbles as she falls to the ground. For some strange reason, she feels very sleepy. The child closes her eyes, happy to see their fate being changed. But the next day, the girl wakes up in pain. Her whole body seems to be on fire. She hears someone beside her and opens her eyes to take a look. To our surprise, we see the little prince. Lloyd is upset to see her crying so much. Arya knows she unconsciously cried because of the pain. She feels grateful that she didn't make any noises. Lloyd notices her wet mask and is afraid the girl might have a fever. He wants to take it off, but Arya immediately turns her head away. The boy becomes shy and says he wants to see the face of his future bride. The girl is shocked by his words and the two sit in silence. The next second, they both turn away in shame. Arya questions the boy, wondering if he is really going to marry her. The prince turns red as he confirms their marriage. Lloyd confirms their marriage, which surprises Arya. She really thought the boy might chase her away this time. He has always despised the weak because they remind him of his mother. The girl feels guilty, so she explains that she wasn't trying to manipulate him. Lloyd knows the girl isn't a schemer. Instead, she is a little fool who doesn't know how to take care of herself. Our heroine is stunned by her new nickname, but it feels better than being chased away. The boy pretends to be unbothered and says he doesn't care about Arya's face. He keeps calling her a bunny, making the girl wonder if she really looks like a rabbit. Our heroine knows she can't hide her face forever, but she is afraid that the boy might chase her away when he sees her ugly face. Lloyd is shocked by her words, but he soon turns red. He tries to hide his pink ears as he says he doesn't care about her face. He almost reveals his crush, but quickly changes his mind. The boy asks for permission to take off her mask. Arya agrees, but she can't stop trembling. She is scared her ugly face might really frighten the boy away. The girl tries to calm down, but when he takes off her mask, she immediately blushes. Lloyd's ears turn red, and he is stunned by the beauty in front of him. His heart races as the blush spreads all over his face. Arya stares at him with those gorgeous eyes, and the boy nearly faints. He slaps a cloth over her face, leaving the poor girl confused. Lloyd changes the topic by introducing himself. He also wants to know her full name. Arya suddenly realizes how messed up their reunion has been. The couple don't even know each other's names. The girl says her name, and Lloyd keeps repeating it. He resumes his job of taking care of her, urging his bride to get some rest. Over at the Holy Empire, the knight who helped Arya is finally awake. He hears someone calling his name, so he opens his eyes. A pretty girl sits by his side with red eyes. The boy is shocked because it is the Saintess Veronica. He sits up but nearly falls over from the pain. The girl urges him to stay still, afraid his illness might worsen. The knight is touched by her concern but wonders why she is crying. The Saintess wipes her tears, pretending to be worried about him. The knight is shocked and stares into her brown eyes. In the Holy Empire, people with great divine power are always worshipped. Their sparkling gold eyes represent their strong ability. Meanwhile, people with brown eyes have the lowest divine power. Veronica clearly belongs to the lowest point, but the girl is still loved by everyone. The whole empire treats her like a princess. The Saintess might have the lowest divine ability, but she is adored by everyone. Gabriel is just a weak squire who might be kicked out at any point. Still, the Saintess has always been kind to him. The knight stares at her, wondering how anyone could dislike such a goddess. The girl claims she found him unconscious and even moved him over to the clinic. She apologizes for waking him up, revealing how worried she was. She was afraid the boy might die. Gabriel feels sad, blaming himself for being too weak. He doesn't want the Saintess to cry for a useless person like him. Veronica pretends to be upset when she hears his words. She glares at the boy, telling him how important he is to the Empire. Gabriel cowers at the fierce look on her face. The Saintess sighs, curious to know what happened to him. The boy tries to recall the past. He must have fainted because the last thing he remembers is being beaten up. He thinks about the poor child, but knows she must have been sold as a slave. The boy tells Veronica the story, blaming himself for failing to save the child. He feels inferior because he was born at the lowest point. The pontiff had saved him, changing his name and giving him a chance to become a knight. But the boy still believes he is useless. Veronica watches the grieving child and suddenly leans over to hold his hand. She tells him not to blame himself, which surprises the boy. The Saintess says he is right and urges him not to doubt his path. Now, those words sound a little familiar. Still, the knight is touched by her encouragement because he has been waiting to hear those words. The girl caresses his face, telling him to always trust her. Secretly, she smiles like a demon. The Saintess also seems to have been reborn. She knows the weak boy will grow up to be stronger than the pontiff. The girl is filled with excitement and almost pierces Gabriel's eyes. She only stops when the knight cries out in pain. Veronica shows her trust in him and asks him to become her follower. Gabriel is surprised by her words, but believes the girl recognized his strength. He kisses her hand and vows to always support her. He will obey her command even at the cost of his life. The Saintess has a malicious smile on her face. She hides her smirk as she pulls the boy closer to heal him. Gabriel recovers instantly, but the girl knows it is his hidden power that helped him. She leaves with a bright smile, urging the boy to recover quickly. But when she returns to her room, her smile immediately turns into a dark aura. The girl glances at a paper on the table and heads over to pick it up. It turns out to be our heroine's note. The trashy Saintess had stolen Arya's advice. Veronica feels no remorse and even says God is helping her. She clearly stole someone's credit, but still shows disdain for the person. She rips the paper apart and even throws it into the trash. Such a shameless person. Days pass, but our heroine isn't getting better. She wakes up to voices inside her room, and when she takes a peek, sees Vincent and Lloyd. The boys study some documents as they worry about her health. Lloyd hasn't heard a word from her until his brother reminds him the girl is mute. The prince feels embarrassed, but he can't control his feelings. He is afraid the girl is hiding her pain. Vincent fails to catch his brother's words, but Lloyd refuses to reveal his caring nature. Instead, he scolds the innocent boy for being too noisy. Vincent feels a little upset because the couple always treat him harshly. Lloyd shows no remorse and warns the boy to focus on his work. Arya listens to their silly conversation, wondering why the boys are here. Our male lead takes another glance at Arya, noticing that she is crying in her sleep again. He gently wipes away her tears, worried about the girl's health. Vincent suddenly speaks up and says she might be having nightmares. He blames Lloyd for always touching her while she sleeps. The prince looks guilty, but still insists that the girl is too weak. His brother explains that sirens have stronger minds but weaker bodies. He thinks the couple might not be suitable for each other. Lloyd is surprised and asks for an explanation. Vincent claims that the two are like poison and will ruin each other. The sirens are known to manipulate people's minds using their enchanting songs. Even if the girl is mute, her siren powers will still affect Lloyd. On the other hand, the Valentines have weaker minds and stronger bodies. Because of this, they can easily fall into madness. If Arya and Lloyd get together, the girl would be able to control his mind. Even if she doesn't try, her powers will still affect the prince. But Vincent isn't too worried. He believes Arya isn't the type to control people's weakness. Lloyd also refutes his brother, claiming those words as nonsense. The boys have no idea that Arya is also listening. She recalls her conversation with the Saintess in her past life. Veronica had accused her of making people mad with her music. Arya can't imagine anything worse than the events of her past life. But the girl will be broken if Lloyd also loses his mind after becoming addicted to her songs. Our heroine knows the prince is different from the Mad King. A few songs aren't enough to make him addicted. Still, she vows never to sing in front of him. Poor Kaelin is really regretting his job. Lloyd glares at him, causing the grown man to feel nervous. The child says the doctor couldn't determine the cause of Arya's illness, so he recommended the spellcaster. Kaelin nervously explains that the girl's energy is messed up. He turns away in fear as he reveals that her internal organs have nearly been destroyed. Lloyd is filled with a dark aura as he asks the man to explain properly. Kaelin curses the doctors for giving him such a hard job. He says Arya's energy is too weak, causing the girl's body to be too fragile. Because of that, Arya would need to take some potions to control her energy. Lloyd finally calms down because their family also has to take such potions. Kaelin prepares over the drug, ready to call the servants to feed Arya. Instead, the prince grabs the bottle and says he will do it himself. Kaelin is surprised, but quickly steps out. Behind him, Lloyd keeps staring at the bottle. Arya wakes up to see a blurry figure in front of her. When she looks closely, it turns out to be Lloyd. The boy pulls her up and gently feeds her the medicine. Our heroine is shocked and cleans her eyes properly. Yet the scene in front of her doesn't change. The boy even caresses her cheek, making her wonder if this is just a dream. The next day, Arya finally wakes up feeling better. When she glances to the side, she sees Lloyd standing beside her. Our heroine is surprised, but when she asks the boy, he claims he just arrived. The girl feels upset, thinking it was all a dream. There is no way the busy prince would take care of her all night. Lloyd explains that the girl has been sick for a week. Arya notices his tired face, wondering what happened. The boy can't hide his huge eye bags as he says he hasn't slept for a week. He changes the topic, but the girl becomes more curious. Unfortunately, the two are interrupted as Dana steps in with their breakfast. She pauses in shock when she sees Arya's bare face. Our heroine turns away, worried her ugly face might frighten Dana. She becomes upset at the thought that the woman might not like her again. Just then, the maid finally speaks, asking where the prince found such a lovely fairy. Arya is surprised, but thinks the woman is teasing her. Instead, Dana becomes more excited and even leans down to give the child a kiss. She is convinced her little miss might actually be a pretty fairy. Arya rubs her head, happy with her kiss. But then, she glances at Lloyd and the two kids remember that awkward pack. Dana laughs when she sees the children blushing and looking away from each other. The prince whispers to her, warning the maid to stop her strange behavior. She is leading his innocent little wife astray. The maid is curious, but the boy refuses to explain further. He is afraid Arya might have heard his words. Our heroine is desperate to save her life, so she strongly shakes her head. The boy remains suspicious, so she quickly changes the topic. The girl tries to use her face card to distract him. Lloyd is defeated by her looks, but when he asks her to eat, the girl can't move. She is too weak to even feed herself. The prince acts frustrated, but he still rushes to her side to feed her. Arya is stunned as his tone reminds her of the dream she had. The girl blushes in shyness, but Dana misunderstands. She tells the prince to be gentle, but Lloyd feels aggrieved. He has never been this gentle in his whole life. Arya finds him cute because she knows the rich boy has never fed someone before. Lloyd has a bad feeling when he sees the girl's smiling face. She must be having bad thoughts. As expected, she leans over and eats right from his hand. The girl has a bright smile as she urges Lloyd to continue feeding her. The prince is stunned by her beauty and obediently follows her request. Arya is full of happiness. Not only has she recovered, she can finally see her mother-in-law. The girl asks around, desperate to find a good gift for the Duchess. The maid encourages her to bring some flowers from the cherry blossom tree. Arya remembers the tree outside her room, so she rushes over quickly. The girl arrives at the spot, but soon faces a huge problem. No matter how hard she jumps, she just can't reach the branch. Arya is about to call her pigeon friends when she suddenly hears a voice from above. The petals fall over her, making the girl look up. She sees Lloyd climbing down the tree and suspects the boy might actually be a cat. The prince has heard about her visit to the Duchess and hands her a flower to give to his mother. Arya refuses to take it because the boy has cut off the whole branch. She is afraid the Duchess might be upset, so she only selects the flower buds. The boy is confused because he wanted to prove to the Duchess that the trees have bloomed. Arya praises the flowers, which makes him shy. He turns away, wondering why the girl is so obsessed with the flowers. Arya notices his red ears and decides to play a prank. She sneaks up and secretly places a flower on his ear. Our heroine is almost caught, but thinks of a lie to deceive the boy. Poor Lloyd falls for her trick, but then the flower really suits him. Arya feels proud because she can tell the boy has never been pranked before. She has taken both his first prank and his first kiss. Our heroine smiles, but notices someone behind Lloyd. The redhead can barely hide his laughter, and Arya remembers his name is Claude. The boy is Lloyd's secretary, and she has seen him around before. He seems to be older by a few years, but they had never met. She stares at the laughing child, certain he also died in the Valentine disaster. Lloyd glares at his secretary, scolding him for laughing. Claude stares at Arya with his puppy eyes, begging her to help him, but his actions only make the Lord more upset. He tells his secretary to turn around because his eyes are too irritating. Claude tries to resist, but a glance at Lloyd's demonic face makes him change his mind. Arya watches as the innocent boy is forced to walk backwards. Just then, she feels someone trying to hold her hand. Arya glances at Lloyd, who pretends like nothing happened. The girl smiles as she boldly grabs his hand. The boy refuses, afraid his strength might hurt the girl. Arya says she trusts him, so she isn't worried. Lloyd stares at her pretty smile and also begins to laugh. The children arrive at Sabina's room, and Lloyd notices the girl's nervous face. He teases her because she always looks fierce with him. He never knew she would also be scared. The prince rushes in suddenly, and the two see the Duchess waiting for them. The two children rush in only to see the Duchess waiting for them. Lloyd is still worried about his mother's health, but Sabina only feels a little pain. Meanwhile, our heroine is fangirling over her mother-in-law. She imagines the woman in a knight's uniform and can barely stop herself from drooling. The mother and son soon notice the girl's sparkling gaze. Sabina teases the child, offering to let her touch her face. Lloyd rushes to defend his wife, which makes his mother laugh. Her son has always been focused on his lessons, but it seems like he has finally fallen in love. The prince is shocked, silly, unable to say a single word. Sabina is convinced that the boy has a crush, but Lloyd hurriedly denies it. His mother teases him, picking out the flower placed on his ear. Our male lead is stunned before he turns and glares at the culprit. He finally knows why all the servants were staring at him. Arya shows no remorse and even says he looks good in red. The prince is full of frustration, but his anger disappears when he glances at Arya's smiling face. Our heroine spends the next few days in happiness. She visits the Duchess with Lloyd until the woman finally recovers. But those peaceful days finally come to an end. Right now, a battle is going on between the Grand Duke and his son. They both glare at each other, scaring our precious Arya. The atmosphere is more terrifying than that day at the prison. The Duke still remembers Lloyd's attempt to kill Arya, so he refuses to give his daughter to this brat. Meanwhile, the butler thinks of his boss's two sons, wondering how he got a daughter. Lloyd challenges his father, reminding him that he brought Arya into the castle to become his bride. He points out that the man had also tried to kill Arya before he became obsessed with her. The Duke still refuses to accept his son's proposal, and they both start another staring contest. The Duchess finally steps in, shocked to hear about their attempts to end the girl's life. She scolds the two men, wondering if they have lost their minds. They seem to have been causing trouble just because she was ill. Sabina asks Arya to come over, placing the child on her lap. She glares at the annoying men, wondering why they would think of hurting this precious baby. She glances at Arya, afraid the child might develop some trauma. Instead, she spots the bruise on the girl's neck. The Duchess immediately turns into an angry mama bear. She is ready to end the men's life, but Arya quickly stops her. Our heroine says she is okay, because she already expected such problems. The Duchess warns her to stop saying that, because she might actually get used to such treatment. She tells Arya she doesn't need to be strong. The child can even hate those annoying men for the rest of her life. Sabina knows the events happened a long time ago, but she doesn't want Arya to forget them. She tells the child not to speak to the Duke or Lloyd until they both apologize. Even then, she doesn't need to forgive them. The woman says Arya isn't okay. The child is just unaware that she is hurt. Our heroine remembers Lloyd's words and finally understands the meaning. She had gotten used to the harsh treatment from her past life, so she really thought she was okay. But now our heroine cries as she realizes that she was also hurt. The men are both surprised to see the child sobbing. Sabina is heartbroken and hugs the girl closer. She glares at her useless husband and son, warning them to get lost. The mama bear furiously tells the men to get lost. Lloyd is upset to see his wife crying, but the father and son have no choice than to leave. Arya didn't expect the Duchess to chase the men away. She realizes that they are now alone, so she feels a little shy. The Duchess pets the girl, encouraging her to scold her son. Unfortunately, Lloyd was born with a strong body, so Arya can't hit him. Our heroine is surprised, but doesn't think it is appropriate to curse her future husband. The Duchess tells her not to worry because she will never be as bad as her annoying husband and sons. Our heroine thinks about the three scumbags and agrees with her mother-in-law. She tries to hide her smile, but Sabina notices. The woman caresses her face, encouraging the girl not to hide her emotions. She wants Arya to do whatever she wants. The child feels awkward, so she gives a very fake smile. The Duchess is amused and begs her to stop. She knows the girl is trying to impress her, but she wants Arya to act like a child, just like her foolish sons. Our heroine thinks about the two little brats and begins to chuckle. Soon it turns into a loud, joyous laughter. Sabina feels happy, so she hugs the girl again. Arya remembers the Duke telling her to show her emotions and thinks the two are really a couple. The Duchess suddenly tells the girl to reveal her secret when she feels comfortable. Arya is frozen in fear and even begins to sweat. Sabina is amused and gently taps the child's nose. She even calls her the Fairy of Spring. Our heroine realizes that the woman already knows her true identity. Meanwhile, the father and son stand outside with dark faces. Lloyd speaks to his father with a harsh tone, but the Duke warns him. He stares at his furious son and knows the boy has something to say. Lloyd is curious to know how his father helped Arya. Valentine says he gave the girl some advice which made her regain her appetite. Lloyd never knew about her illness, so the Duke explains. Arya could only eat some soups or candies, but even then, she couldn't stop vomiting. Lloyd had no idea because he always thought the girl was an outsider. He remembers that the Duke had also saved Arya from her father. The prince worries that the girl is only marrying him to repay her debt. Valentine also has a question for his son. Everything seems to have changed since Arya arrived, and the girl has given them hope. He thinks the boy is only marrying her because of this. Lloyd immediately turns into an angry panther. He thinks his father might have forced Arya to marry him. The prince doesn't care about her special ability and is ready to become her shield. He vows to destroy his father if the man ever tries to use Arya. Lloyd jumps around like an angry cat, daring his father to touch his girl. Valentine watches his son leave and says the boy misunderstood him. The butler knows his boss is just rage-baiting his son. The Duke admits his crime and says the boy is just too cute. His assistant warns him to stop before he ends up dead. Valentine suddenly sighs because he thinks Arya might be the person he has been looking for. The butler is curious, but the Duke quickly changes the subject. He is finally willing to let Lloyd marry his daughter. Once again, his assistant wonders how he got a daughter. That night, Dana announces that the priests from the Grand Temple will be visiting. Arya doesn't look too pleased to hear this news. The Temple of Eden is the last religion remaining in the world. Everyone who wants to get married must first request permission from God. Arya knew they would contact the temple, but never expected the priest to come over. She is anxious and hopes nothing bad will happen. The girl is nervous about meeting the priest, but Dana says she doesn't need to see those scumbags. Our heroine is surprised to hear her blasphemous words, but the maid doesn't care. She kisses the child's forehead, urging her to go to bed. Arya convinces herself that everything will be fine and she falls asleep. But the next second, our heroine is woken up by strange voices. The child thinks a fight is happening, so she steps out. The vassals have calmed down since the last incident, so she is sure this is an outsider. Arya finally arrives at the room where the argument is happening. She leans over to listen only to hear the men talking about eavesdroppers. Our heroine nearly faints from fright. The men think no one can hear them, but a certain siren is listening. Arya is sure the men are the priests from Eden. Inside the room, a brown-haired man is furious. He doesn't want to send his people to the duchy, but his boss says they have no choice. The assistant believes the children will be taken as prisoners. He thinks the duchy is full of darkness and is afraid his innocent children might see some evil. The boss tells him to consider it a training, but the assistant refuses to relax. He is afraid the children will be corrupted by the environment. Arya never knew that the temple would send a child to the duchy. But then she realizes that the Valentines have always been secretive. She becomes upset when the man says the duchy will corrupt their children. The boss suddenly mentions the squire who recently showed some divine powers. The assistant says the boy has an angel's name, and our heroine is shocked. She wonders if they are talking about Gabriel. In her past life, the man was the captain of the Garcia's Holy Knights and killed thousands of people. He even believed that it was God's will and killed without hesitation. Arya trembles as she recalls that madman. She tries to convince herself that it must be another person. Inside the room, the two priests have decided to send Gabriel into the duchy. They are afraid the boy might explode because of his chaotic energy and cause damage to the Empire. The priests know the boy is desperate to refine his ability, so they are determined to use him. The girl can hear them moving closer, so she hurries to hide. The two men are relaxed and even plan to let the boy volunteer himself. Arya watches them leave, despising the scheming men. They are unwilling to send their precious candidates and are trying to scam a little squire. She can't believe such wicked people are actually priests. Our female lead begins to doubt the meaning of good and evil. Garcia might be the symbol of good, but it is just as dirty as the duchy. She thought the two places had no connection, but it seems Garcia is sending a child over. The girl knows the Empire must get some benefit, and wonders if this is an exchange. Arya is lost in her thoughts when someone flicks her head. She looks up surprised to see Lloyd. Lloyd is walking around when he spots the eavesdropping Arya. The girl says she couldn't sleep, so he advises her to listen to a lullaby. Our heroine leans over, asking him to sing one for her. Lloyd almost swears at her, so he quickly covers his mouth. He feels frustrated, but asks her to call the head maid. Arya stubbornly insists that it has to be him. The prince is upset because the girl teases him every time. Arya watches him throw a tantrum and finally realizes that they seem to be meeting often. Lloyd says his study is in the building, and the girl looks shocked. She really doesn't know, which makes the prince disappointed. He always thought the girl was hanging around the garden because it was close to his study. He finally realizes that it was just a coincidence. The prince almost faints when Arya mentions his mother's advice. The Duchess wants her to swear, so Lloyd encourages her to do it. The little girl has never cursed, so she has to think for a while. Soon, she mentions all the harsh words she has ever heard. Arya soon runs out of mean words, but the prince is already upset. He is afraid those words might have been said to Arya. Indeed, our female lead heard those words from her father. Lloyd is furious and wishes he could end the Count's life. Arya sees his dark face and doesn't reveal that Kaelin also taught her one. She still wants the spellcaster to have a long life. Lloyd is full of regrets because he only just realized that he doesn't despise Arya. He is only worried about the girl's health. The prince is finally ready to accept her as his wife. Arya notices that he looks upset, which makes her relieved. The girl believes she will die after 10 years, so she doesn't want to burden the prince. She doesn't want him to love her, because he will only blame himself for her death. Arya will feel better if he only marries her because of pity. That way, she can travel abroad after their divorce and end her life in peace. The girl is busy thinking about her future when an evil claw squeezes her cheeks. Lloyd blames her for ignoring him, so he squeezes her face even harder. Our heroine ends up with bruised cheeks while the boy pretends to be invisible. He suddenly grabs her hand, going down on one knee. The prince apologizes for threatening her and trying to make her life difficult. He makes a vow never to do it again and promises to give her everything she wants. Lloyd begs her to stay here because this is now her home. Arya is supposed to be happy, but the girl looks frightened. She never thought she would have her own home. The boy boldly declares himself as her husband and is ready to have their wedding. Arya interrupts his confession because underage weddings are supposed to be illegal. Lloyd reminds her that the Valentines have never followed the law. The girl knows this is true, but she is afraid it might affect Lloyd's second marriage. The prince immediately looks unhappy, and this time he doesn't hide his curse. He vows to only have one wife and promises Arya that she would be his last. The girl nods and he finally calms down. He vows to show her the world and give her a happy life. Arya is pleased because the boy wants her to live like herself. But she is still worried that her past life might repeat itself again. Lloyd notices her feelings and after kissing her hand, promises to destroy anyone who offends her. Arya is stunned as she realizes a shocking truth. Lloyd might have been a demon in her past life and a young prince now, but one thing has never changed. The boy has always liked her. Arya almost screams at this disaster. Over at the Holy Empire, Gabriel is about to leave for the duchy. Of course, Veronica has to play the role of the caring sister. She sees the boy off, praying for his safety. Gabriel is touched and vows to return stronger. The girl pretends to be upset and says she only wants him to be safe. The knight leaves, but he is still thinking of the saintess. He will be gone for 5 years because he wants to protect the girl from danger. He will make sure she fulfills all her dreams. The contract between the Garcia Temple and the duchy has been passed down for generations. Garcia must send over a young priest to purify the evil intent in the duchy. Gabriel remembers that the holy priest had called the duchy a dangerous place. The Valentines are the worshippers of the devil who gained their strength after borrowing the forbidden power of the demons. But for some reason, the Holy Empire has left them alone. Gabriel is unwilling because he thinks such evil should be eliminated. He vows to become stronger so he can expose the Valentines and destroy them all. Over at the duchy, the people have no idea that a threat is approaching. The cook is having a showdown with Arya as they prepare the wedding meal. The girl wants strawberry cake, and the man hurries his assistants to prepare it all. Arya notices everyone's joyful look, and Vincent says they have seen hope. Because the Duchess's illness was suddenly cured, the people believe the Valentine curse is already over. Arya is nervous about this misunderstanding, but she is determined to end the curse and make it real. But just then, Vincent says the curse can never end, and our heroine deflates like a ball. She wants to know more, but the boy also has no idea. Vincent notices her disdainful look, so he explains that only the Duke and his son are aware of the secret. Still, the boy is sure that the Duchess's recovery is not related to the curse. He believes someone outside must have helped. Arya becomes nervous until the genius explains that the duchy is still full of evil intent. She has no idea what he means, and Vincent nearly explodes. He doesn't understand why everyone is protecting her so well. Our heroine is eager to hear the story, and so Vincent begins. The first master of Valentine was God's favorite and was given a special prophecy. The deity planned to judge the world, so he gave the master the task of destroying the demons. However, Valentine fell for the demons' temptations and sold his soul to summon them. He released the demons and opened the gates to hell. Because of this, the deity placed an eternal curse on the master. Vincent thinks the man was just afraid. He was unwilling to go to God's side and leave his family behind. Arya also supports her family and even blames the deity for giving the task to a human. She even calls him lazy, which makes the boy smile. The girl defends the first master and even says she would also have done the same. Vincent laughs until he cries, amused by her blasphemous words. Arya says she is a Valentine, and the boy doesn't doubt her. He explains that only the Holy Empire takes the story seriously. Because the tale has even passed down for generations, Vincent is certain that the truth has changed. He only wants Arya to know that the Valentines are born with a lot of evil intent. The curse even affects the whole duchy, making the people stronger and the animals bigger. Arya doesn't see anything bad with those changes, but Vincent says it is because they have been purified. He tells her that a priest is coming to purify the evil intent with divine power. The Holy Empire is also anxious to protect the duchy, because if they fall, the whole world will be destroyed. Arya finally understands why the Emperor respects the duchy. Everything will end if the evil intent is completely purified, but Vincent says it is impossible. The Valentines have spent hundreds of years trying to lift the curse, and even the pontiff couldn't achieve this goal. Arya believes her song is more powerful than the pontiff. She tells Vincent that she has a way, making the boy curious. Our heroine vows to break the curse and is ready to do everything she can. Arya wakes up to see a stranger standing beside her bed. The woman introduces herself as Arya's new maid. Dana explains that the girl was sent out of the duchy after being framed by another person. The true culprit recently confessed, so the maid was brought back. Our heroine seems to have a hand in this. Some days ago, a male servant who heard her singing came over to threaten her. He even boasted about framing another servant and chasing them away. Arya had simply brainwashed him with her song and made him confess all his crimes. Turns out, Moran was the maid who got sent away because of the evil man. Dana says the Duchess has ordered the girl to stay by Arya's side. She tells her mistress to keep the girl around and make her a permanent maid if she likes her. Moran won't miss this chance to advertise herself and quickly moves closer to Arya. She stares at her with puppy eyes and says she personally requested to become Arya's mad. The Duchess mentioned that Arya was the one who saved her, so the girl is here to repay her debt. She vows to serve the child until the day she dies. Arya sweats a little bit, wondering how the Duchess found out. Still, she welcomes Moran, which makes the girl very happy. The maid begins her duties and tells Arya about the urgent meeting with the vassals. Because of her wedding, the men are even using their war transportation scrolls. Our heroine is nervous, thinking that her wedding isn't as important as a war. She thinks a conference will be held, but Moran explains that it is just a formality. In the end, the prince will still get what he wants. Arya isn't relaxed because she thinks the vassals will surely reject the marriage. As always, the girl decides to go take a peek. She sneaks over to the conference room, but when she arrives, someone is already there. Arya glares at Vincent while the boy hides his face. She is covered with a dark aura as she wonders if he followed her. The prince isn't scared and says he already analyzed the girl. She is always at the scene whenever something major happens. The girl's chubby cheeks are squeezed into a pout, so the boy promises not to disturb her. The two reach a truce and focus on their mission. Inside the room, Lloyd announces his marriage, and as expected, some vassals protest. Most of them are unsatisfied because of the girl's background. They demand for an explanation and ask Lloyd to expose her origin. Our heroine knows the men are trying to chase her away. They think the curse has been lifted, so they are trying to marry their own daughters into the duchy. Eris is feeling nervous and is afraid their persuasion might make Lloyd doubt her again. Meanwhile, Vincent looks very relaxed. He tells her not to worry because his brother always gets what he wants. Just then, our male lead begins to behave like a tyrant. He swings his sword, obviously threatening the men, and asks again if they have any objections. The men become silent and Lloyd laughs like a demon. Just like that, the marriage has been accepted. Arya wonders how he could threaten the men when he is just a successor. She was prepared to brainwash them with her song, but Lloyd already settled everything. The girl feels her heart racing as she realizes that they have really become a couple. Even though two people already know about her abilities, they are still willing to protect her. Even Vincent seems to have taken an interest in her. Our heroine touches her heart, finally feeling like she's found a family. But soon, she hears footsteps approaching and someone calls their names. The two kids have been caught. But thankfully, it is just Claude. The boy had felt a presence, but didn't expect to see the two children. Vincent is furious when he notices that the boy was about to attack them. Claude shifts the blame to the prince because he had asked him to kill all witnesses. The two boys start an argument because Claude wants to report them to the crown prince. Vincent tries his best to persuade him, but the secretary is just too stubborn. The second prince is unhappy because he will be the only one getting scolded. Lloyd might even blame him for dragging Arya along. He begs Claude to overlook his mistake, but the secretary pretends to be ignorant. The two kids are forced to watch him with open mouths. Vincent soon explodes, refusing to believe that the secretary won't help them. Claude remains calm and ignores the fuming prince, causing Vincent to nearly pass out. The knight is clearly enjoying his misfortune and even comments on the prince's pale face. He drags him away while Arya watches the two boys. The secretary is really the only person that can piss Vincent off. The group eventually meets Lloyd, who scolds them for being noisy. Vincent is about to sacrifice himself and reveal his mistake when Arya suddenly steps in. She pulls Lloyd away and begs him to make Claude her knight. The secretary is stunned while Vincent just directly faints. The next day, the whole mansion is full of happiness. It is finally Arya's wedding day. Dana urges the girl to smile, and we see our gorgeous female lead. The maid praises her beauty, certain the fairies in the forest aren't as pretty as Arya. Moran is unwilling to fall behind and even says the child's smile can melt mountains. The two maids battle with words, all eager to praise Arya. Their words make the poor child embarrassed, and she tries to stop them. Maron shares a piece of advice with Arya, telling her that the people she loves are always the prettiest. She proclaims her love for Arya and urges the child to also love herself. Our heroine stares at her reflection, and for the first time, she really examines her face. She notices her gorgeous eyes and her pretty little smile. Arya realizes that she doesn't care about the world. She only needs to be surrounded by the people she loves. The girl smiles with happiness, finally understanding the meaning of love. Once again, Maron confesses her love for Arya, but this time she is caught. Vincent appears and isn't pleased to see another person confessing to his wife. He is ready to duel with Maron if she wants to fight for Arya. The maid immediately hides behind the girl, refusing to see the scary prince. She apologizes to her mistress because her love isn't strong enough to face Lloyd. Arya is amused until she notices how handsome her husband looks. He seems different with his new clothes, and even his hair has been styled. The girl feels shy and doesn't know where to look. The boy also remains silent, making her wonder if she looks weird. She doesn't feel ugly for the first time, but Lloyd's silence is making her doubt herself. Just then, the boy tries to touch her veil, causing Arya to glare at him. His action is inappropriate, but she soon notices his red ears. The girl recalls Maron's words, and her heart begins to race faster. She has just realized that Lloyd is the most beautiful person in her world. Arya admires Lloyd's beauty, but when she praises his good looks, she uses the wrong words. She calls the boy pretty and doesn't understand why he looks annoyed. The girl finally realizes her mistake, but it is too late. The prince moves closer, telling her to look at the mirror. He indirectly calls her pretty, which surprises Arya. But Lloyd doesn't seem to understand what he just said. The girl can't hide her smile as she thinks of ways to tease him in the future. She starts laughing at his cute reaction, which pisses off the boy. He decides to take his revenge and suddenly lifts Arya. He even teases her about her weight. The girl panics at first, then she begins to admire her husband's strength. The two arrive at the wedding venue while the girl watches him. She wonders if the boy is upset because they are only having a short wedding. But she is sure he doesn't care since he has achieved his goal. He just wants to announce her status to the world. Lloyd faces his little bunny, asking her to hold his hand. The girl finds his tone annoying, and suddenly the boy doesn't look cute. But when he places the ring in her finger, she notices the smile on his face. Arya wonders if he is happy because they are finally married. She feels shy, so she shifts her gaze to the massive blue diamond. She can't believe the duchy is using such expensive jewelry for a child's wedding. The girl admires the ring but notices that the stone looks strange. Lloyd confirms her guess, asking her to project her thoughts to him. The two communicate in their minds, and he explains that this is a telepathy stone. Arya catches on quickly, which surprises the prince. The girl becomes nervous, afraid she might have exposed her secret. Thankfully, Lloyd only assumes that she is a genius. Our heroine admires the ring, aware that it must have cost a fortune. The prince watches and asks her to throw her ugly bag away. The girl points out that she still has to communicate with others, but Lloyd becomes jealous. He doesn't want her to care about others. Just then, the priest asks them to kiss, and they almost burn him with their scary gaze. The man coughs, changing it to a peck, but Lloyd insists on skipping that part. The butler looks disappointed, but finally announces them as husband and wife. The people begin to clap, but Arya is disappointed by the short ceremony. Lloyd asks her to take his hand, and his action reminds her of the past. He is still the same even in a different life. Arya stares at the man who pulled her out of hell, and she makes a vow. In this life, she is going to save him. She will spend the next 10 years protecting both of them. We finally return to the scene where the story began. The two children are locked up in a room together. Lloyd protests, but the servants just want them to share a room. They quickly escape, leaving the two kids alone. Arya doesn't understand why Lloyd refuses to share a room with her. He insists on sleeping on the sofa and asks her to take the bed. The girl offers to share the bed, but Lloyd refuses and rushes into the bathroom. Arya watches him leave, grateful that the boy was born. She vows to always make him happy. The two fall asleep, but our heroine wakes up to the sound of coughing. She hears someone scratching the sofa, but when she opens her eyes, she sees Lloyd in pain. The boy coughs out blood, and our heroine is frozen in shock. She feels heartbroken because the boy she wants to protect seems to be very sick. Lloyd notices her gaze and gives a short laugh. This was why he refused to share a room. He urges the girl not to worry because it isn't a terminal illness. He says he only has some little fits, but Arya can't relax. The prince calls this his family's karma. They didn't choose to become demons, yet they are forced to pay the price. He is worried that Arya might be afraid and is ready to divorce her. But instead, the girl rushes over and hugs him. Lloyd is stunned because he can feel her hot tears. He is afraid to stain her with his blood, but the girl refuses to leave. Lloyd is about to push her away when he hears the girl calling his name. He stares at her in shock, wondering if she just spoke. Arya doesn't hide her secret as she hugs him and begs him not to push her away. The girl cries as she sings a song for him, but Lloyd doesn't seem to be enjoying it. He asks her to stop, and Arya quickly ends the song. She remembers that the Valentines have weak minds and is afraid the boy might already be poisoned. She calls his name in fear, but Lloyd is still amazed by her beautiful voice. He wants to know the girl's real identity. Arya reveals that she is a siren. Our male lead is sure the girl was the one who healed his mother. He knows her father is greedy and wonders how she hid her voice. Arya tells him about the drug her mother fed her, which took away her voice. Lloyd is certain the drug will have some side effects, but Arya pretends to be ignorant. She keeps avoiding his gaze. The girl changes the topic and says they both know each other's secret. Lloyd reveals that he still has some hidden truths, but Arya believes the child can do no wrong. She tries to distract the boy and says she had a scary nightmare. She begs Lloyd to sleep next to her and hold her hand. The prince knows she is trying to change the topic, but he can't refuse her cute face. The two end up sleeping together, and Arya hopes this is enough to comfort him. She regrets wasting the blue diamond, but Lloyd urges her to always wear it. He hopes the girl can call out to him when she's in danger. Arya also wants to help him and promises to always come to his aid. The next day arrives and Arya has made up her mind. She won't hide the truth about the Valentine disaster since the boy already knows her secret. She gives Lloyd a wedding gift, and it turns out to be the mermaid tears. She calls it a token of love, and the boy nearly loses his soul. Arya calms him down and says this isn't a confession. She just wants him to know that she will never harm him. Lloyd touches his red ears, regretting that they haven't been pierced. Arya believes the pearls have found their home because the boy will never harm her. Gabriel finally arrives at the mansion, and Lloyd hurries over to tell Arya the news. The girl is a bit excited, but he warns her not to speak to the boy. He says the pontiff is worse than the sewage rat, so right now, Gabrielle is just a spy. Arya changes her mind and decides not to speak to anyone from Garcia. But like they say, no one knows the future. Arya is in the garden with her maid and is admiring the flowers. Suddenly, she hears a rustle behind her. The girl turns around only to see Gabriel. She finds him familiar until she remembers their meeting at the lowest point. The boy also recognizes her face while she does her best to hide from him. Myron the mama bear shows up, stopping the boy from coming close. She yells at him for speaking casually to the future Duke's bride. Gabriel doesn't know her identity, but he is certain he has met Arya, but his words only make Mara more furious. She believes the boy is using cheesy lines to flirt with her mistress. Gabriel tries to defend himself because he has really seen Arya before. Maran doesn't believe him, and when she asks Arya, our heroine quickly denies the boy. Gabriel stares at her with wide eyes but soon apologizes. He is certain Arya is trying to hide the truth, but believes she has a special reason. Maron's anger keeps rising until her hair begins to float in the wind. Gabriel ignores her and is just happy to see Arya alive. He always blamed himself for failing to save her. The maid begins to doubt because the boy truly seems to know Arya. He introduces himself as Gabriel and says he is here on a holy mission. Arya is shocked, but tries to convince herself the boy just has a similar name. She remembers that Gabriel's power manifested late in her past life. The girl glances at his eyes, relieved to see their blue color. But she panics when she notices the specks of gold around them. This boy will be the pontiff's right-hand man and also Veronica's loyal dog. Arya trembles in anger because the knight had ruined her past life. Still, our heroine refuses to resent him. She plans to ignore the boy but suddenly changes her mind. If she can win Gabriel over to her side, she will have a powerful ally. And so the girl hands him a secret note before she walks away. The boy opens the note, but it says, "I saved you." Arya sits alone in an empty building, plotting on how to get Gabriel to her side. Just then, the boy himself arrives, pleased to see her alone. He has been bothered by her previous statement. Arya says she saved him and calls him an angel, which makes him blush. He says he isn't one, but Arya points out his sparkly features. The boy even has an angel's name. Gabriel accepts his new nickname, eager to know how Arya saved him. He wonders how she could get him over to the papal church. Our female lead decides to satisfy his curiosity, so she blows a whistle. Immediately, a large wolf dog comes running. Gabriel finally realizes that the evil intent in the duchy is real. He tries to protect Arya from the monster, but the girl reaches over and pets the dog. Gabriel is in shock, but just then a huge panther arrives. Other animals keep rushing, and I think they should just start a zoo. Arya explains that the animals helped her and the boy feels a bit useless. He finally understands that the girl never needed his help. Instead, he just became a huge burden to her. Arya notices his upset face, so she urges him not to doubt his path. Gabriel is stunned by her words because the Saintess also said the same thing. The boy wonders if it is just a coincidence. Well, no, your Saintess is a fraud. Dana is introducing the staff to Arya, but the poor girl is a bit overwhelmed. It feels nice to get to know everyone properly, but their expectant looks are making her a bit nervous. Our heroine decides to write a note to thank them, and the grown men suddenly have an attack of cuteness. The stable keeper quickly snatches the note away and stares at it like a little treasure. Behind him, the game master looks unhappy. The two men begin a tug of war, and each person is trying to snatch the note. Arya watches them in shock and hands them another note, begging them not to fight. The game master immediately cries like a baby, happy to receive a note from his mistress. He tries to steal her away, telling her to come and see his bunnies. The stable keeper is full of disgust, and the men begin another battle. Dana slaps the annoying men away, scolding them for frightening her poor mistress. Betty takes advantage of the chaos and offers Arya some food. She just wants to steal the little girl's heart. Our heroine is about to eat, but she is suddenly interrupted. A scary-looking man arrives with a patch over his eye. He introduces himself as Dustin, the captain of the Black Falcons. Arya stares at Claude beside him, but the poor boy looks like he was beaten. Dustin was supposed to be Arya's knight, but the girl requested for Claude. He praises the child, certain the boy's ability will soon surpass his own. Arya is impressed because the man doesn't seem jealous. He is not like her father, who beat her up because he was envious. Our female lead is curious about Claude's injured face, and the boy immediately complains. He was beaten up by the jealous guards because of Arya. Dustin covers the boy's mouth, saying, "These are battle scars from training." Claude wonders which training has 17 people against one. Arya interrupts them, asking Dustin if he hit the boy. The man denies, and Claude stares at him in shock. He finally confesses that he sat by and watched. Arya warns him not to bully her knight and promises to scold them if the boy is injured again. Claude feels touched because the girl is the first person to stand up for him. Everyone else just tells him to fight if he feels upset. Our heroine imagines the boy's poor life and tries her best to comfort him. Dustin isn't moved by the boy's pitiful act. Claude made sure to get his revenge, and everyone who fought him is still stuck in bed. The captain promises to punish them and changes the topic, asking Arya for a card. Our heroine is speechless, wondering how the meeting turned into an autograph event. The girl has no idea why everyone is trying to steal her card, so she asks Lloyd. The boy knows it is because of her cute face, but only tells her to throw the cards away. Arya says she has to communicate with others, but Lloyd doesn't want her to care about them. He knows she has been hanging out with Gabriel, and the prince is jealous. Arya says she just wants to be his friend, which makes Lloyd upset. She explains that she wants Gabriel to have some positive feelings for the duchy. The prince doesn't think she should pay attention to him because the priest isn't important. Arya holds his hand, revealing that she only cares about her people. Gabriel isn't her person, and she is only close to him because he came to help the duchy. Lloyd is filled with a strange emotion which makes him panic. He doesn't want Arya to interact with others. He is about to say this when he notices the girl holding his hand. Lloyd knows this feeling is wrong, so he only tells Arya to be careful around Gabriel. Arya is still trying to figure out how the battle for her cards began. She realizes that the Grand Duke was the one who started everything. The girl is prepared to scold him until she notices his tired face. Arya is sure the man hasn't slept, and he praises her for noticing. He says he is losing sleep because he is getting old. Our female lead is speechless because the Grand Duke is still in his 30s. The next day, the whole duchy is suddenly shaken by a loud bang. Maran holds her mistress, yelling about an earthquake. Everyone is worried and rushes to the window to take a peek. Arya's eyes widen when she sees the huge hole outside. The Grand Duke is standing in the middle of what looks like a dragon's footprint. The girl refuses to believe the Duke could cause such damage. Beside her, Claude looks grim as he says it is finally time. Outside, Kaelin and the two princes gather around. Lloyd picks up his sword, offering to knock his father out so they can drag him away. Our heroine is a bit scared because Lloyd is still too weak to fight his father. The two draw their sword and begin their battle. Arya focuses on the dark aura surrounding the Duke and notices it isn't sword energy. The Duke is using the evil intent from the demons. Lloyd is soon injured and is afraid his right hand might become useless. Just looking at the dark intent is enough to make everyone tremble. Our female lead sees Sabina approaching the Duke, and she becomes terrified. She knows the Duchess' body is still weak. We expect to see a splash of blood, but Sabina simply slaps the man's head. The group are all stunned by this sudden change of events. The slap actually works, and the Duke soon recovers. He is surprised to see his wife, wondering why she is here. He says it is dangerous, but Sabina calls him the scariest person. Valentine picks up his wife, quickly taking her away. And so everyone is forced to swallow this dog food. Arya is still curious about what happened, so she asks Lloyd. The boy says it is time to change the head of the family. The evil intent is already showing signs of being passed down. Once it leaves his father's body, the man will become powerless and rotting. The Duke will suffer from madness until the end of his life. According to tradition, he will be locked up in an annex and surrounded by a barrier before he becomes uncontrollable. Arya is shocked, but Lloyd says they still have 5 years. The girl wonders if this is related to the Valentine disaster. She knows the evil intent will be passed to Lloyd, so she is worried about him. The boy says he will have some seizures, but he will become stronger than before. Arya recalls that painful night and is unwilling to see the boy in pain. She thinks the demonic intent can't be passed down if Lloyd refuses to have children. The prince says it is possible, but it will also be the end of the world. Arya finally realizes why the boy never married in her past life. He wanted to end everything. The girl notices that he has pierced his ears and is wearing the mermaid pearl. Lloyd becomes defensive because he thinks she is going to take the gift away. Arya tells him that is her promise to never betray him. Since the boy wants to see the end, Arya is going to fulfill his wish. The girl smiles like a demon as she says they can go to hell together. She just wants the prince to do whatever he wants. Lloyd feels touched, but he isn't ready to destroy the world. He just wants to stop the duchy from paying that stupid price. Arya leans against his shoulder, promising to fulfill his request. But will she be able to save him and prevent the Duke from dying? Arya, worried about the Grand Duke, visits his office the next day. The man calls her his daughter, and she stares at him, wondering when she got another father. Arya thinks the man is unbothered until she notices the pile of bottles in front of him. She takes the wine away, afraid drinking might worsen his condition. The Duke protests, asking Arya to leave some for him because right now, drinking is his only solace. Our heroine notices his huge black panda eyes and can tell the man is losing his strength. He must be desperate for some sleep, which is why he is trying all measures. She asks the butler, who confirms that the Duke hasn't slept for 10 days. Tristan interrupts them, telling Arya that he would soon lose his mind. His butler tries to stop him, but the Duke wants his daughter to know the truth. He confesses to Arya that he has a secret. The man can hear her song wherever he goes. Arya looks frightened, trying to figure out how the Duke found out. The only people who know her secret are from the Duke's family, but they will never expose her. Tristan explains that he hears her song clearly whenever the evil intent is inside him. Arya looks defeated as she realizes that the Duke has always known her secret. She recalls her past life when Lloyd said her song could reach him anywhere. The girl always thought it was just a coincidence, but now realizes that it is the evil intent. The Duke should have black eyes like Lloyd, but because of the evil intent, they are now faded gray. Tristan knows he has no future, so he covers his eyes in despair. Arya is heartbroken because the Duke needed her song the most. Yet, he never forced her to sing and always left her alone. She drops the bottle and says her song can reach everywhere, even down to hell or demons. Arya is willing to use her ability to save the Duke from darkness. And so that night, the girl sneaks into his room. She is surprised to see his door unguarded until she remembers the Duke's formidable strength. The man seems to be asleep, but Arya notices his pale complexion. She knows the Duke is suffering and is impressed by his endurance. The girl, desperate to give him some relief, sings a lullaby to help him sleep. But she never thought the sleeping man would suddenly wake up laughing. Arya watches with a pout as the man's shoulders tremble from laughter. The child is upset, so she yells at him to stop. Unfortunately, the Duke laughs even harder. When he finally stops, he feels pleased because Arya sang about his angelic face. The man even strikes an arrogant pose. Arya glares at the Demon King, warning him to listen seriously. He is still talking about her compliment, so she tries to push him back into bed. Of course, she struggles for a long time, but the Duke barely moves. Arya feels like she has lost all her dignity. She hadn't used her mythical energy because she thought the Duke had a weak mind. This time, she plans to pour all her energy into this lullaby and knock the man out. Tristan teases the child, certain she will sing about babies and stars again. Arya's face turns red in embarrassment, because the Duke is actually right. She is about to leave from frustration, but the man pulls her back. He says the first song made him sleepy and begs her to sing another one. Arya is touched because the man has never been so vulnerable. After threatening him not to laugh again, the siren begins her song and the Duke soon falls asleep. Arya stares at the sleeping man, certain he must be a fallen angel. The girl watches him with a smile, vowing to take away all his nightmares. The next day, Arya is playing around when someone calls her name. Tristan arrives and the man looks better than before. He has prepared a thank you gift for Arya and tosses her a golden key. The girl is confused until he says it is the key to her room. Arya, happy to have her own space, immediately glows like the sun. The Duke is surprised because she wasn't this happy when he built her a playroom. He offers to show her the room and when the girl agrees, carries her like a baby. Arya is stunned, but she can tell the Duke is very happy. She is still reducing the evil intent, but seeing the happy Duke makes her relieved. Her happiness soon turns to fear as they approach the room. Arya is afraid the Duke might have decorated her room in a weird way. But when she opens the door, she sees a gorgeous and luxurious room filled with everything she likes. Arya doesn't believe that her father prepared all this, and Tristan finally admits that the Duchess also helped. Arya happily looks around the room and soon notices a pink bunny. The Duke says he didn't choose that, which makes Arya confused. She wonders why the Duchess got her a pink bunny, but soon remembers another culprit. It must be the naughty first prince. Arya is holding the pink bunny as she stares at Lloyd, who refuses to glance at her. The boy looks guilty and tries to cover his red ears. Arya is now certain he was the one who bought the pink bunny. She finds his reaction adorable, so she strokes his fluffy dark hair. Lloyd is enjoying this pampering until he remembers his pride and dignity as a prince. He quickly pushes Arya's hand away, causing the girl to feel some regret. The prince hands over some letters to distract her, and Arya immediately becomes curious. She thinks the boy is planning her debut, but Lloyd just wants her to pick a new adoptive family. He has recorded all the best houses, and when Arya chooses one, he will move her register over to them. Arya realizes that the prince is trying to hide her siren identity. She feels touched because Lloyd always does the best for her. The prince thinks she is afraid, so he explains that only her name will be moved over. Arya is afraid the families might not want a complete stranger, but Lloyd acts like a tyrant and says they are all below the Valentine house. Arya is convinced, but when she glances at the letters, they are all from famous families. She notices a name that makes her tremble in fear. The House of Chatoy is famous for supporting orphanages. They always hold charity events and have adopted a lot of children. But Arya knows this is all a facade. Count Chatoy had tried to sell her to Garcia in her past life. After he was chased away by her father, he quickly revealed her identity to the king. He convinced the emperor to hold a death trial for Arya, but instead of killing the siren, they replaced her with a girl from the orphanage. The count destroyed the girl's face and legs, killing her in place of Arya. He locked the siren in a cage and forced her to become the king's pet. The evil emperor rewarded him with a high position, giving him both wealth and glory. Because of their evil actions, the pontiff of Garcia began a war. Lloyd sees his bride trembling with fear, and he immediately becomes alarmed. He is sure the Chatoy family must have offended his wife. Arya is full of anger, wondering why she had to suffer so much. Lloyd notices her pain and urges her to reveal all her grievances. Our heroine finally opens up and reveals that she has a lot of dreams. The girl wants to learn how to use a sword, cook, draw, and even travel around the world. She just wants to live a free life. Lloyd immediately starts thinking of ways to fulfill her dreams. He offers to teach her the sword and even plans to find her a drawing teacher. He also knows a spot where she can learn horse riding. The boy kneels in front of Arya, asking her not to focus on his dreams. He also wants her to achieve all her goals. Lloyd glances at the Chatoy family's letter and vows to kill everyone who has offended her. The couple are still together, but Lloyd seems distracted. Arya is curious about his thoughts, and he says he is planning to take her to the forest. The girl is certain he is lying, because he was glaring at the invitations with murderous eyes. Lloyd changes the topic and claims he can't take her to the forest because she looks too weak. Arya is confused because hiding her energy doesn't make her weak. She believes her weakness comes from her shortened lifespan. The girl feels sad and suggests that taking a walk with Lloyd might make her better. The boy calls the idea stupid, but the next second he urges her to come over. Arya is stunned when Lloyd suddenly lifts her up like a baby. The Valentine men seem to be obsessed with carrying her. She urges him to put her down, but the prince says she might fall sick. Arya's face turns red because Lloyd's embrace is different from his father's. The girl can barely breathe because of her racing heart. Thankfully, the two arrive at the garden before our heroine dies from lack of oxygen. Arya expects the place to be dark, but instead, the garden is covered in mana stones. Arya knows the Valentines own most of the mana mines in the Empire, but this is still too extravagant. She admires the garden that is glowing like the night sky and Lloyd's amazing beauty. She finally makes up her mind and chooses the Angelo house as her new adoptive family. Lloyd finds it a bit difficult because Duke Angelo is a very stubborn man. He won't even be moved by Lloyd's threats. The prince wonders why she chose the Angelos when the House of Chatoy is more famous. Arya flinches because she has made a mistake again. A child abused by her father shouldn't know about the affairs of the other houses. But in her past life, the Angelos were one of the few families who never listened to her song. The Duke and his sons had even died while fighting for the Empire. Arya quickly pushes the blame on the Chatoy family, calling them hypocrites for sending an invitation. Lloyd doesn't refute her and only suggests they head back. Arya tugs at his clothes and stops him from leaving. She hands over a sparkling mana stone and says it resembles Lloyd. The prince is confused but still places the stone into his pocket. He carries his little wife away, worried that she might fall sick again. The next day, Maran appears with a new dessert. Arya is so focused on eating, she doesn't listen to the maid's words. She only stops when Maran complains. Our heroine is surprised when the maid reveals that the Count of Château is dead. She says the man was assassinated last night and his corpse was found in the morning. Claude scolds Maran because Dana had ordered her not to tell Arya. He thinks the girl is too young to hear such news. Our heroine glares at him because she is the oldest mentally. Marin ignores the guard and continues her story. The Imperial guards who investigated the Count's death discovered that his orphanages were used for crime. The man acted like a philanthropist, but was running experiments on children and selling them as slaves. The maid looks disgusted as she reveals that the whole empire is talking about his crimes. Arya is surprised because everyone would be mourning the Count if his crimes weren't exposed. She believes someone leaked the secret and heads over to confront her first suspect. Lloyd pretends to have no idea what she's talking about. The boy tries to distract her by handing over the adoption papers for the House of Angelo. Arya knows the prince could only win Duke Angelo's trust if he was behind Count Chaitoy's death. She explains that she isn't upset because the Count deserved to die. The prince still acts ignorant and urges her to sign the papers. He has a crazy smile on his face because the person who terrified his bride is dead. Another day passes, and Arya is going to visit the Duke and his wife again. Claude complains because his young prince must be feeling upset. Arya thinks the prince might be jealous because she is hogging his parents, but the guard explains that Lloyd might want to see her too. The princess becomes nervous as her mind goes in a dangerous direction. She imagines herself visiting Lloyd's room at night. Claude protests his innocence because the princess is looking at him like a pervert. He explains that the prince only treats Arya like a younger sister. Well, our heroine doesn't want to hear this truth that makes her upset. She wants to grow faster, but her death and the Valentine disaster will also come quickly. Arya is bothered by these annoying feelings. Arya isn't the only one feeling bothered. Over at the Garcia Empire, Veronica is frustrated. She calls her loyal dog, but the boy hangs up on her to pray with the Grand Duchess. The girl trembles in anger, wishing that the Duchess could fall into despair. She knows Gabriel is loyal to her, but for some reason, she feels anxious. Just then, she overhears some priests talking about Count Château. The man was also a missionary, and they thought he was setting up orphanages to share their gospel. The priests are still cursing the Count when the Saintess suddenly appears. Veronica pretends to be worried about the orphanage's children, but she has an evil plan for them. She tells the priest that she is willing to visit the orphanage and help those children. Arya has no idea what the demoness is doing. She is still curious about the mysterious necklace that doesn't react to her energy. Since the necklace was found in Garcia, she thinks it might prefer divine power. Just then, Gabriel rushes in, apologizing for being late. Arya isn't offended and asks him to put his divine power into the necklace. Gabriel tries and the pendant immediately begins to glow. The priest is horrified and immediately throws it away. He explains that the pendant was trying to suck his divine power. Arya isn't surprised because she already knew the pendant's secret. The priest is curious about its origin, but Arya can't reveal the truth. Instead, she blames poor Kaelin for giving it to her. Gabriel almost faints when he hears that the Valentines also have a spellcaster. Arya knows the boy just wants to become stronger, and after seeing his confused look, believes he isn't a spy. Gabriel opens up to Arya, revealing that he doesn't have a lot of divine energy. The priests sent him here because they believed he had potential after seeing his eyes change. The boy feels sad that he couldn't recognize this necklace. Arya doesn't want him to be disappointed, so she makes him happy by promising to keep his secret. The next time we see our heroine, a year has passed. Arya is now 11 and learning to ride horses from the Duchess. She still remembers the promise she made to show Sabina the 4 seasons. The Duchess hugs her little daughter, while Arya admires her mother's strength. The woman activates her face card as she urges Arya to learn the sword from her. The princess is seduced by her good looks and immediately agrees. But when she sees the furious Lloyd, the girl cowers and hugs her knees. She apologizes because she has been cheating on her husband. Arya has been hugging the Duchess while learning the sword. She sees Lloyd's furious look and thinks he is upset, because he also wants to hug his mother. The prince scolds her for her foolish thoughts and explains that he also wants to help her achieve her dreams. Arya finds him dumb since her whole life depends on him. She tells the boy to teach her everything he knows. Arya thinks the conversation is over, but Lloyd wants to know if she kissed his mother. She admits that she pecked the Duchess, and the prince calls her frivolous. The girl yells that he was her first kiss, which makes the poor boy embarrassed. The two joke around as another season passes, and autumn arrives, but the painting teacher isn't feeling good. He studies Arya's black drawing, thinking it might be some kind of fruit. The girl says it is her face, and the man almost bites his tongue. Arya finally realizes that she has no talent in drawing. Vincent appears and destroys her heart by calling her drawing hideous. He pretends to comfort her and says she can't know everything. Arya is feeling happy, thinking that the annoying prince has finally become nice. The boy bursts her bubbles in the next moment as he brags about being a genius. Arya can't deal with the annoying boy, so she asks Claude to take him somewhere else. The knight is eager to fulfill his duties and pushes the weak Vincent away. The boy protests, but Claude insists on taking him to a festival. Arya notices her maid's interested look, so she suggests that they all go together. The four head to the harvest festival, but once they arrive, the princess is glued to the delicious street food. Moran tells her a story, saying that kissing under the fireworks will make your first love come true. The girl feels sad because her first love is Arya, and she already has a husband. Vincent warns the maid to leave his sister-in-law alone if she still wants her life. Arya is watching their cute argument when Vincent suddenly says she must be feeling sad. After all, Lloyd isn't here to give her a peck of affection. Our heroine doesn't say a word and only calls Claude over to teach the second prince a lesson. Another season passes by as winter arrives at the duchy. Gabriel is waiting for Arya because he wants to celebrate his special day with her. In Garcia, the people celebrate the day Nua the demigod was born. They also share gifts to the people they would like to thank. Gabriel gives the princess a new bag, thanking her for being his friend and saving his life. Arya feels touched and drags the boy over to the kitchen. She's afraid he might be lonely in this foreign country, so she wants to celebrate his special day with him. The girl prepares a cake, and her gesture makes the priest very happy. A few hours later, our heroine is feeling guilty. She is afraid Lloyd might be upset, so she decides to bake a cake for his birthday. Arya plans to learn from the chef, but the man has bad news. The first prince doesn't celebrate his birthday. Arya recalls that the boy celebrated her birthday, so she doesn't want to skip his own. She urges the chef to make a cake and promises to take responsibility. But a few hours later, the three are all dumbfounded. They stare at the smelly, dark mess in front of them, which is supposed to be a cake. The chefs try to cheer her up, but Arya deflates like a flower. After years of struggling, Arya finally makes a decent cake. Well, the chef might have done most of the work. She happily heads over to Lloyd's room, eager to present her gift. The girl squats outside waiting for midnight, but she's caught by the birthday boy. Arya looks very awkward while Lloyd wonders if she's playing with fire. The girl finally recovers and wishes him a happy birthday. Turns out our male lead doesn't even know his own date of birth. He is afraid the girl might be disappointed, but Arya isn't bothered. The two promise to make every birthday special for him. 3 years pass by and Veronica is regretting her decision. She tries to contact Gabriel, but once again, he doesn't respond. The Saintess smashes the communicator, cursing the boy for betraying her. She is afraid her plan is now ruined and regrets sending Gabriel to Valentine. Veronica refuses to give up and soon comes up with another plan. The girl grabs a weapon and slashes her own body. She pretends to be terrified as she contacts the pontiff. Meanwhile, our heroine is about to be blinded. She stares at Lloyd, who seems to be glowing like the sun. The prince notices her glance and questions her strange behavior. Arya covers her face as she complains about his change. Lloyd is now 18 and seems to have grown up. She frowns at him because he's no longer cute. The prince apologizes, which only makes her angry. The younger Lloyd would have thrown a tantrum, warning her not to call him cute. Arya peeks at him from behind the book because just looking at him makes her shy and awkward. She almost faints when the boy suddenly calls her strange. She thinks he is talking about her, but Lloyd is examining the documents. The prince has noticed their diamond prices seem to have increased. He smiles like a demon as he prepares to punish the embezzlers. Arya watches in fascination but becomes upset when she recalls the Valentine disaster. Lloyd's eyes might still be black, but Arya knows it will soon change. The Grand Duke is already transferring his evil intent into his son. Arya and the priest are working together, but they still can't purify the evil intent. She wonders why her healing song, which helped Sabina, doesn't work on the Duke. The princess needs more information, so she asks Lloyd. She thinks there might be other sirens living on Earth. The boy says finding them will be hard because they have been hiding for generations. He hands Arya a document and promises to search for clues. Our heroine studies the proposal for a sea exploration and calls it a fraud. She only becomes interested when she notices the word Atlantis. The girl's mother had told her the story about the city. Atlantis was the siren's home that sank under the sea years ago. She can't believe someone is trying to find treasures from a fake legend, so she asks Lloyd to call the man over. She thinks he might either be a crazy liar or he knows something about Atlantis. But when the mystery man arrives, he says he belongs to the Atlantis royal family. Our heroine is convinced he is a mad liar. She orders her guards to send him away, while the man tries to prove his innocence. He says he has proof, but then he brings out some random trash from the ocean. Arya once again chases him away, but the man calls the trash his family's heirloom. He claims the shell can find the door to Atlantis. Once they embark on a journey, it will lead them to Atlantis. Arya wonders why he never tried it, and the man cries as he admits that he is drowning in debt. The girl wants to take a look at the shell, but once she touches it, a golden light suddenly appears. Our heroine is stunned because the dirty trash has turned into the most expensive pearl in the world. She thinks the man doesn't need to look for Atlantis since he can pay off his debt just by selling this pink pearl. Instead, the man drops to his knees and calls her his queen, leaving our heroine speechless. The man is certain that Arya is from the Atlantis royal house. He reveals that his family are messengers sent to assist the royal descendants. Arya is tired of this delusional liar, but thinks the pearl might be special. She needs to find more information, so she asks the weird man to sell her the treasure. Lloyd is waiting for his wife, and when she arrives, he teases her with her new queen title. The girl warns him to stop mocking her and asks to see his wounds. Because of the evil intent, Lloyd's injuries have increased during the past years. Arya heals his arms, but she becomes upset and starts to cry. The prince tries to comfort her, but our girl is distracted by his big, strong arms. She is shocked by her dirty thoughts and immediately turns red. Arya pushes Lloyd away, trying to deny her feelings for him. The prince isn't upset because he had vowed never to touch her even when she becomes an adult. Our heroine doesn't know how to clear this misunderstanding. She studies Lloyd, noticing something strange. The Valentines are supposed to have weak minds, but Lloyd and his father aren't affected by her siren songs. Arya recalls a bit of her past life. She had met Lloyd a few times before she died. The man, covered in blood, killed everyone and begged her to sing him a song. The girl wonders if she fell in love with him at that moment. She is relieved that the current Lloyd hasn't lost his mind again. The prince notices her worried face and assumes that the girl is sick. He pulls her close and presses his forehead against hers. Poor Arya immediately turns red, but the ignorant boy thinks that she is just ill. The girl covers her forehead in frustration because the prince is treating her like a child. He even rubs her little head. Our heroine is forced to think about her cruel fate. She might have a husband, but she is going to die without even getting a kiss. Truly a sad life. Meanwhile, over at Garcia, an angry priest comes looking for Veronica. The man yells at her, and when she tries to touch him, he slaps her hand away. The priest is upset because the saintess is spreading a fake rumor that he has been assaulting her. He feels sorry for her, but warns her not to put the blame on him. Veronica says he isn't innocent and accuses him of bullying her because of her weak divine power. Barome is amazed and finally confirms that the saintess is weird. He always disliked her, but it was never because of her divine power. The man always thought that Veronica was frightening, and even her eyes looked scary. The girl might have strong prophecy powers, but the priest is determined to expel her. Veronica panics because she doesn't want to be expelled. She sneaks up behind the priest and suddenly shoves him down the stairs. The saintess goes down, but instead of showing remorse, she just wants to confirm his death. The man's blood splashes on her face, and some gets into her mouth. Veronica calls it disgusting, but her divine power suddenly increases. The girl can't believe that drinking a priest's blood can increase her powers. She is tempted to drain Barome's blood, but knows it will look suspicious. Everyone would suspect her sudden powers if they find Barome's blood-drained body. Still, the saintess is happy and vows to use her new weapon. Our heroine visits the happy Duke, who seems to be living his best life. Tristan is clearly using his weakness as an excuse to live like a bum. She is a bit surprised because the Duke was supposed to go mad after losing his evil intent. Tristan teases his daughter, saying she seems to be wishing for his madness. The man was supposed to be confined to the annex, but the doctors claimed he was getting better. The Duke believes that Arya's song must have helped him. The princess is surprised because she thought her song would make him crazy. The girl had done some research, but there was no record of anyone losing their mind because of the siren song. Yet in her past life, everyone who heard her song went crazy. Arya believes she was framed, and there is only one person who would benefit from her downfall: the Holy Empire and their fake saintess. After the nobles lost their minds, the king became a tyrant, causing the citizens to die in the war. Arya always thought her song brought misfortune, but now realizes that she was tricked. Divine power isn't supposed to cause madness, so Arya wonders how the Holy Empire ruined everyone. Tristan notices his daughter's worried look and urges her to relax. Arya remembers that evil intent can cause madness and is afraid the Holy Empire made a deal with the devil. She asks Tristan, but he claims it is impossible. Our heroine thinks the pontiff might have been ignorant, but suspects that the saintess acted on her own. Arya is desperate to find some clues and even rushes into the rain just to see Gabriel. She has always been worried about Lloyd, afraid the boy might lose his mind because of her song. Now that she knows she was tricked, the princess is eager to find the culprit. Arya finds Gabriel training under the rain. The priest is distracted by her presence and injures his own hand. The boy blames himself for his mistake, but Arya looks concerned. She is studying his injury when the mysterious pendant suddenly shows a red light. Gabriel is frightened because the necklace just drained his blood. He realizes that the pendant would only work when it touches blood mixed with divine power. The priest takes a look at Arya and almost faints from fright. The princess's eyes are now a bright golden color. The two children are amazed as they discover the pendant's secret. The jewel can absorb the divine power of others for its owner's use. Our heroine is confused because the necklace should be useless for Veronica, who had more divine power than Gabriel in her past life. Well, we wonder how she got that. And then the children return to the castle, but while Gabriel cleans up, Arya admires his good looks. The boy has grown up, and she is now certain that he is the famous captain from her past life. Just then, Gabriel begs Arya to give him the necklace. He explains that he has a special friend who is being bullied because of her weak divine power. The princess is now certain that Gabriel found the necklace in her past life and gave it to Veronica. She questions the boy because he had called the necklace dangerous. How can he give it to his close friend when the jewel could suck all her energy? Well, Gabriel has a solution. He plans to fill the necklace with his divine power so Veronica can use it. Arya challenges the boy, asking what he would do if the necklace kills someone. Gabriel feels ashamed and apologizes. He explains that he is upset because the saintess is being bullied. He even thinks that Veronica might not want such a shameful pendant. Arya is in doubt because in her past life, the saintess wore the necklace. She is surprised that Gabriel never doubted her until she recalls that he was the saintess's most loyal dog. The girl wonders where they found divine power until she remembers a case from her previous life. Back then, various priests were murdered in the Grand Temple. Every year, more than 10 priests went missing, and their bodies were always found drained of blood. People claimed an evil demon must have done it, and even accused the Valentine Duchy. In the end, no evidence was found, but Veronica's power suddenly increased during that period. Arya is horrified as she realizes that the saintess must have killed those priests. Arya knows the saintess might be a serial killer, so she has to stop her. She wants to know if Gabriel will help the saintess kill innocent people. The boy is annoyed by her insult because he thinks his pure saintess can never kill anyone. Arya repeats the question, curious to know if he will change his beliefs just because of the saintess. She begs him not to forget his path and says she will keep wearing the necklace. She asks him to keep it a secret even from Veronica. Gabriel agrees, but warns her never to insult his saintess again. Arya is worried because the boy already treats Veronica like his religion. She reminds the priest that Veronica is not a god. Just like other humans, she might do anything to get what she wants. Gabriel looks stunned by her words, and Arya knows he must be disappointed. After all, she just judged his friend without meeting her. The princess knows he will speak to Veronica and hopes her theory will be wrong. Arya is really having a busy day. She goes to sleep but wakes up to see herself underwater. The girl can even breathe under the ocean, and she admires the beautiful sight. She thinks this might be a dream, but when she touches the animals, everything feels too real. She heads towards the deepest end and suddenly has a shocked look on her face. Right in front of her is the mysterious Atlantis. Arya wonders whose castle this is, but decides to swim around and take a look. She notices a glowing box, but it can't be opened without a password. Just then, the ocean rumbles as the building begins to collapse. Our heroine is frightened and she desperately tries to escape. She manages to make it out and wakes up in her own bed. Arya is confused and thinks it was just a dream. But when she notices her injured shoulder, she realizes that everything was real. The girl also sees the glowing box from her dreams and almost faints from shock. She stares at the conch pearl, wondering if it is really a map to Atlantis. Arya is confused and decides to treat her injuries first, but then she faces another problem. The doctor will surely report to Lloyd, and even though Kaelin can keep her secret, he has no healing powers. Our female lead is in a dilemma because Lloyd mustn't know about her injury. She suddenly remembers the strange necklace and its divine power. She had taken it off because her eyes had turned a golden color. The girl is afraid it might not work, but decides to give it a try. A second has barely passed, but her injury is already healed. Arya turns her hand into a bat, swinging it around in happiness. She is amazed because her eyes return to their normal color after using the necklace. She can't understand why divine power is so easy to use. Anyone can become a priest as long as they have a bit of divine energy. The princess compares it to the energy from the other magic groups and notices that divine power is easier to use. She finds it strange because it seems like divine power wasn't formed naturally. The energy seems to have been created by humans. Arya is too tired to think about that and takes another look at the strange box. She still can't figure out the passcode and decides to ask for help in the morning. The next day, she goes searching for Vincent, who has been waiting for 4 years to ask her a question. The princess expects to hear something important, but the boy is just jealous that she calls Gabriel an angel. He is unhappy because he thinks he looks more like an angel. Our heroine glares at the arrogant boy and regrets asking for his help. Vincent is done with his tantrums and finally notices the strange box in Arya's arms. He takes over the box and barely a second later finds the secret note hidden inside. The two study the paper, but it seems to be a musical code formed from an ancient language. Once they figure out the meaning, they might be able to open the box. Vincent says he might solve the problem if he knows the box's origin. Arya confesses that the box is from Atlantis, causing the prince to nearly lose his soul. He wonders how his sister-in-law found such a precious treasure. The girl says she got it through her dream, but the prince calls her a liar. He has no interest in her story and just stares at the box with loving eyes. Arya urges him to keep it a secret, and Vincent promises to guard it with his soul. The boy vows to open the box and solve this riddle. The next day, Arya visits the prayer room, but sees an upset Gabriel. She is a bit worried, so she questions his strange behavior. The boy looks sad as he admits that he might have placed the saintess on a pedestal. Arya guesses that he has revealed the mysterious necklace to the saintess. Our heroine is right as he confesses that he tried to test Veronica. Unfortunately, the girl who knew his personality guessed that he found a way to increase divine power. She pretended to be uninterested, but kept urging the priest to tell her everything. Arya glances at the sad boy and is secretly relieved that he no longer worships the saintess. Gabriel in her last life would believe Veronica, even if she said the sun rises from the west. The boy had been completely brainwashed into her loyal dog. The princess interrupts his sad thoughts, warning him that the saintess might soon visit them. Gabriel doesn't believe that Veronica will go that far, but Arya knows that she is desperate to increase her power. She is about to lecture the boy when she suddenly hears Lloyd's voice through their telepathy ring. The prince is coming to find her because the king has invited them into the palace. Gabriel is still defending his saintess, so our heroine panics and covers his mouth. Lloyd guesses that she is with the priest and says he will soon arrive. The girl is about to stop him, but it is too late. The door opens as the Duke appears. Arya feels like she has just been caught cheating, causing a guilty look to appear on her face. Lloyd can barely control his anger and regrets keeping the priest alive. Gabriel, unaware of his upcoming death, declares that they are both innocent. He tells Lloyd not to misunderstand, but his words only make the Duke furious. He threatens to gouge out the priest's eyes if he ever lusts after his wife. Meanwhile, the girl they are fighting for is wondering how to fix this problem. She wants to tell Lloyd about the necklace, but Gabriel suddenly stops her. He reminds the princess that this is their little secret. Arya is about to go mad and curses the boy for worsening the situation. She isn't the only one upset as Lloyd suddenly grabs the priest's hand. Our heroine sees a flash of blood and can even hear Gabriel's hand breaking. She finally realizes why her husband always called her weak. Turns out he can crush her hand if he holds her tightly. The ignorant priest hasn't learned his lesson as he tells Arya not to feel sorry for him. Our heroine can feel all her concern for the boy disappearing. Lloyd wants to know their little secret, but Arya is afraid Gabriel might find out. She tells a little lie and says the secret is about the honor of Gabriel's close friend. Lloyd doesn't look convinced, so she begs him to believe her. Our male lead trusts his wife, but he has noticed the way Gabriel looks at her. He drags Arya away and is grateful that the priest already has a crush. The poor boy hasn't even realized that he has feelings for Arya. Our male lead can recognize the priest's feelings, and it makes him upset. Lloyd drags Arya to his study and informs her that their diamond mine doesn't have a problem. The only diamonds that were stolen all belong to the king's palace. Arya is confused, wondering why their men would steal from the king. Lloyd explains that the problem isn't from them. Because he had ignored the king for 4 years, the man had played a low-level trick. He had ordered his own men to steal the diamonds so he could force Lloyd to visit the palace. The prince is disgusted by the emperor's cheap trick. Meanwhile, Arya is worried that his visit to the palace might just be a trap. Lloyd isn't afraid because the king will lose everything if he tries to attack him. The princess recalls her husband's evil intent and knows the king will also die if it explodes. She is still worried that something bad might happen, so she offers to follow Lloyd. The boy refuses, but our heroine is tired of hiding. She is ready to face all her problems alone. The Duke is still reluctant to let her into high society. He knows the people will mock Arya and is afraid he might just kill them all. The princess sweats, feeling a bit nervous for those people. Still, she is happy because her husband is concerned about her feelings. Arya thinks everything will be fine if she goes with her new adoptive father. The next day, the couple head out to visit Angela's castle. Lloyd is annoyed as he glares at the huge light bulb standing behind them. Vincent isn't ashamed to be a third wheel and claims he is just hitching a ride to the library. The boy boasts about his research, and even though he is working for Arya, she is also annoyed by his smug behavior. The children turn around as a handsome butler with white hair welcomes them inside. Arya steps into the Duke's mansion and is surprised to see an empty space. The girl thinks the Angelos must have spent their fortune on helping the poor. Vincent is about to insult the castle, but Arya quickly steps on his foot. She ignores the crying boy as she finally realizes why the Angelos never listened to her song. They were just too broke to afford 100 million. The butler distracts Vincent, urging him to visit the library. Meanwhile, he takes the couple to the Duke's study. Arya is finally introduced to her adoptive father, Duke Martin. His second son Luther is also around, but the firstborn has gone on a mission. The group sits down, but soon sink into an awkward, miserable silence. Martin finally speaks and announces that the sewer rat is still alive. Arya is stunned while Lloyd claims it is impossible. 4 years ago, the Valentines had invaded the sewage and completely destroyed the territory. They had killed the sewer rat and even confirmed his death. Martin explains that his men have seen someone who looks exactly like the sewer rat. Our heroine is terrified and can't believe the man is still alive. She had brainwashed his subordinate, the wizard Hans, and forced him to kill his own master. The girl is worried because if the rat is still alive, it means her magic is no longer effective. Martin recounts his servant's story. The man had gone mountain climbing in his hometown, but soon noticed that the village chief was missing. He went into town but found the villagers dead and dried up like skeletons. Arya guesses that the villagers' energy was all sucked out. She is confused because taking others' energy will only ruin the body. She wonders why Hans didn't warn the sewer rat if he is still helping him. Martin says he has sent his eldest son over, but he still wants to report to Lloyd. He tells the boy to be alert because the sewer rat will have a big grudge against Valentine. Over at a secret building, Hans is drowning in sorrow. 4 years ago, the wizard had received a mission from the sewage. He was ordered to kidnap the Duchess and feed her a strange medicine. The man sneaked into the duchy with ease and soon found Arya surrounded by animals. He knew the beasts adored her, so he created a chimera that could paralyze anyone. The wizard thought the job would be easy, but the girl who was supposed to be mute suddenly began to sing. The man was brainwashed, and when he finally recovered, he had become a rebel leader. He fought together with the Valentines, destroyed his own home, and attacked his master. Hans prayed that the man would be dead because the Lord would never spare him. Unfortunately, the sewer rat was still alive. Hans begged for his life before his master finally allowed him to live. He wanted an eternal body, so he forced the wizard to turn him into a chimera. The boy tried to keep him alive, but the master needed a steady supply of energy. He soon became greedy and absorbed others' power while also stealing their bodies. Hans, tired of thinking, goes searching for his master. He feels some disgust as he stares at the handsome man with red eyes. The master might be alive, but his body smells like a rotting corpse. Hans urges him to leave because they have killed too many people. He is afraid someone will soon catch them. The sewer rat is unwilling because he needs a new skin. The wizard can't understand his master's obsession with handsome bodies. The rat orders him to find a new skin before they leave. Compared to Hans's darkness, the duchy is full of joy. Maron is stunned by her mistress's beauty and almost falls at her feet to worship her. We see a gorgeous Arya who is dressed in the most stunning gown. It turns out our heroine is finally having a debut. Although Arya thinks it is more like a war. Lloyd had visited the king and the two had settled the diamond case. The couple were invited into the palace to celebrate the Foundation Day, and all the other nobles will also attend. Arya is sure the new priests will also arrive with the Saintess. The girl is lost in her thoughts when Lloyd arrives. She is surprised to see him dressed in white, but he says he is going for an angelic look. Arya almost calls him arrogant, but when she glances at his handsome face, her heart almost falls out of her chest. Her husband really looks like an angel. The couple arrive at the palace and the servants announce their entrance. Arya expects everyone to crush them, but instead sees an empty space. She realizes that her husband must have chased them away. Lloyd shows no remorse and says he is just worried about her safety. Our heroine was waiting for the jealous looks, but now no one is even glancing at them. Behind the couple, Vincent almost cries because he was expecting a crowd. Arya can now speak to others through her mind because Lloyd has gotten her a general mana stone. She pities the second prince, so she tells him to have a dance. Then he can get all the attention he craves. She expects the prince to be happy, but the boy suddenly begins to cry. It turns out our poor prince doesn't even have a partner. Arya feels her heart break and hands him a drink to comfort his sorrows. Vincent suddenly smiles and tells her to dance with Lloyd on his behalf. He is such a good wingman. Arya is also tempted, but she has never learned how to dance. She confesses to the men, and they both look shocked. Lloyd is amazed because his wife has always behaved like a proper miss. The prince seizes this chance and offers to help her. He feels glad because he can finally also teach her something. Arya realizes that Lloyd still remembers their conversation from a few years ago. Back then, she had urged him to teach her everything he knew. Our heroine is happy, but just as they are about to hold hands, the servants suddenly announce the king's entrance. The girl immediately turns into a pitiful cabbage. She sees everyone bowing, but when she tries to greet the king, Lloyd stops her. The prince is still waiting for her to take his hand. Arya laughs because he is openly ignoring the emperor. She thought she would be trembling in fear when she saw her former bully, but because of Lloyd, the girl is filled with strength. She happily takes his hand but tells him to teach her later. Just then, the evil king arrives and we finally see his annoying, unpleasant face. The emperor arrives, pleased to see the duke and his duchess. Arya glances at the king and guesses that he has a secret plan. After years of studying his emotions, she knows the look on his face when he is planning something evil. The emperor claps, urging the people to welcome the duke with happiness. He smiles darkly as he calls them the empire's heroes. Arya can see through the king's fake praise. He calls Valentine the heroes, but is actually mocking them for being demons. The girl is upset because the cowardly duke won't survive without her husband. Still, she forces herself to greet the king because she can't offend him yet. The emperor has heard about the famous duchess and mocks her for stealing Lloyd's heart. He is upset because the duke had given her the famous Feldsteel, a jewel that costs more than the whole empire. Arya, eager to get her revenge, pretends to praise the king for his excellent eyesight. Secretly, she is calling the emperor a pig because he doesn't recognize the Valentine's importance. The man looks upset, and Arya can tell he understood her meaning. Lloyd pushes the knife further and also calls the king a pig. Our heroine expects the man to throw a tantrum, but he controls his anger. He invites the two to a separate dinner, and the girl confirms her suspicion. The emperor must have an evil plan. Arya receives an urgent call from Vincent, making her rush into the lounge. But when she answers, she hears the second prince yelling at Claude. The girl feels frustrated because the boys have been arguing for 4 years. She interrupts their conversation and wants to know if Vincent has found some clues. The prince is excited because Angelo's library is full of ancient records. Everything seems pleasing except for the dummy behind him. He reveals that the secret code will probably be cracked in a month. Vincent can see the girl's disappointed face, so he reminds her that there are thousands of ancient texts. The prince might be a genius, but the work will still be difficult. For the first time, Arya praises the boy's intelligence. Vincent almost cries as he wonders if he has finally become one of her people. The Duchess is surprised until she recalls their conversation from 4 years ago. She had teased the boy, saying he only had a small chance to become her family. Arya didn't expect him to remember and says he has always been her brother. Vincent is almost glowing as he smiles brightly. The good mood is soon ruined as the banquet comes to an end. It is time for the couple to visit the annoying king. Lloyd says they have to leave, but Arya suddenly grabs his hand. She vows to ruin the king if he ever tries to harm her husband. The Duke, surprised by her sudden touch, questions her strange behavior. The girl behaves like a tyrant and says she just wants to hold his hand. Secretly, she vows to protect her husband. But a few seconds later, our heroine loses all her confidence when she steps into the king's room. Arya trembles in fear because she still remembers this spot. The king had built this giant hall and locked her in a birdcage until she died. He always called this his breeding room. Arya is terrified when she steps into the breeding room. The king urges them to take a seat, but our heroine can barely breathe. She notices the servants standing around with weird looks on their faces. Everything feels strange, making the girl panic. She soon finds what she was searching for, a magic circle that can amplify the effect of magic. In her past life, the Emperor had used it to amplify her siren song. Arya is nervous and warns Lloyd, though, their communication ring. She wants him to be careful because she is afraid the king is about to use some sort of magic. Lloyd is stunned when she reveals the amplification circle and wants to know how she found out. Our heroine realizes that she has slipped up again and says she will explain later. Right now, she's afraid the king knows the Valentine's weak spot and is trying to ruin Lloyd's mental state. Instead of panicking, the Duke calls her cute, causing Arya to turn red from embarrassment. The poor girl almost burst into flames. The Duke is already alert, and after urging her not to worry, they end their secret conversation. Lloyd says he needs to go home because the king's disgusting face is making him sick. Our heroine hides behind her husband and scolds him for being too blunt. They still have to save some face for the Emperor. Suddenly, Arya feels a weird energy approaching as a black mist surrounds them. She covers her nose because the energy stinks like trash and feels filthy. The Duchess is certain it belongs to the sewer rat, but after looking around, she still can't find his face. The king urges Lloyd to stick around for dinner, but the Duke says he might do something rude because of his sickness. The Emperor accuses Lloyd of disobeying his orders, but the prince shows no remorse. He gives the man a final warning and tells him to let them go. Arya informs Lloyd through the mana ring about the sewer rat's presence. Just then, she notices a suspicious maid with a dark aura and red eyes. The woman suddenly grins like a devil and tries to attack Arya. Lloyd quickly protects his wife and ends the maid's life with a single slash. But they are both terrified when they see the dead body still moving. The maid has turned into a walking corpse. Arya is frightened as she recalls their conversation with Angelo about the sewer rat. She finally realizes that the man has an eternal body and is still alive. She is terrified, but when they try to escape, they are stopped by the king's guards. Arya wonders if the king is trying to kill everyone, but suddenly realizes that he is working with the sewer rat. The girl is shocked because the two men never had any connections in her past life. She recalls Kaelin's warning that changing the future would force the world to create new laws. Because of her, the Emperor and the sewer rat are now on the same side. Arya notices a strange magic barrier, and Lloyd explains that someone is using magic to support the rat. Arya is sure it must be the wizard Hans. The prince suddenly makes a move and attacks a guard. But in the next second, the dead body rises up again. The sewer rat is upset because Lloyd is ruining his magic spell. Arya watches in shock as the rat takes over another body. She finally understands why so many servants are gathered in the hall. They are all going to be the rat's sacrifice. The girl stares at the king, terrified by his evil plan. The emperor isn't ashamed and says he can't help them. He claims to be blocking the door so the sewer rat wouldn't escape and kill all the nobles. Arya knows the king is lying and is trying to trap them inside. She is ready to sing the song of destruction, but Lloyd stops her by covering her mouth. He warns her not to expose her powers in front of the evil men. Arya regains her senses and realizes that her magic won't work on the rat. The man is now a chimera and isn't born by nature. Since he was created in the sewage, the siren's power won't affect him. The Duchess trembles in fear as she remembers that the rat killed an entire village just to survive. She can't imagine what he will do if he discovers her true identity. Lloyd notices his wife's terrified face and shields her with his body. He faces the sewer rat and challenges the man. The master is still giving a long speech, but Lloyd has already attacked. He stares at the dying man and expresses his disdain. The rat is unwilling to give up and takes over the body of the king's most capable warrior. He truly believes he can finally defeat Lloyd. The prince is tired of his boring speech and attacks the man again. The master screams in agony, but Arya knows he feels no pain. Instead, the true owner of the body is the one suffering. Lloyd isn't afraid to kill these innocent people, but he knows his wife might be upset. Our heroine knows she shouldn't care because this is a necessary evil. Still, she is worried about the innocent people. The master notices their fear and mocks them, asking if they are going to kill everyone. He finally reveals his true purpose. He wants to steal Lloyd's evil intent. The Duke suddenly laughs like a maniac and tells his wife to stay away. He warns her not to make a move no matter what happens. Lloyd glares at the sewer rat, daring him to take the evil intent. He reminds the man that the energy of the demons can't be contained by the human body. The Duke is annoyed because the master always pretended to hate their energy. Meanwhile, he wants to possess their powers, become a god and rule the world. The rat is ashamed, but Lloyd urges him to take the evil intent. Arya doesn't know her husband's plan and is worried that he might sacrifice himself. The master, upset by Lloyd's indifference, rushes to the magic circle. He activates his powers and mocks Lloyd, promising to keep him alive. Because the other dukes all die before they turn 30, he thinks Lloyd will also turn into an empty shell. The sewer rat thinks the Valentine's demon energy was made for him. Since he has an eternal body, he will never be killed by the evil intent. Arya is terrified once she realizes that the rat is trying to steal Lloyd's evil intent. Without his powers, she is afraid the prince might lose his mind or turn into ashes. Our heroine is terrified because she thinks her husband is going to die. She refuses to let him go because she is yet to make him happy. Just then, the man she is worried about suddenly smiles at her. The sewer rat is excited because he can feel Lloyd's evil intent. The man believes he will finally have the power to take over the world. Suddenly, the look of joy on his face changes to terror. He thought the Valentine's evil intent would feel like demonic energy. Instead, it seems to be divine power and it is purifying his soul. The master is full of regret, but it is too late as his body crumbles to dust. The emperor watches in fear as his partner loses his life. Arya notices that the sewer rat's disgusting scent has faded. She rushed into the darkness, afraid her husband might be harmed. Arya tries to touch Lloyd, but her hand is almost burnt off. The Duke feels sorry for his wife, but he can't touch her because of his evil intent. He apologizes and urges the girl to leave first. Lloyd turns back to the emperor and is ready to deal with the scheming man. The king is afraid and quickly calls Lloyd a hero, praising him for destroying the evil intruders. Lloyd isn't deceived by his fake attitude and presses his sword against his neck. The emperor accuses him of treason, but he reminds the king that his foolish decision could have ruined the world. He praises himself for saving everyone and tells the king to reward him properly if he wants to live. Meanwhile, inside a mansion near the palace, Veronica is looking outside the window. She notices the Valentine carriage passing by and expresses her interest. The priest wonders why she is curious about the duchy, but the girl says she just wants to meet Gabriel. The high priest sighs, thinking about the events that happened in the palace. He tells Veronica about the sewer rat's attempt to steal Valentine's evil intent. The priest mocks the rat for daring to absorb divine power into his sinful body. Veronica is shocked when he refers to the Valentine's evil intent as divine power. She questions the priest, but the man pretends to be ignorant. The saintess knows he won't respond, so she thinks about the sewer rat. The girl is impressed by his ability to steal people's energy and change his body. She smiles darkly because she has found another way to carry out her evil plan. Meanwhile, the couple decide to spend the night in the capital. Lloyd says they have several mansions, and our heroine is shocked by their extravagance. She notices the boy's bad mood and tries to figure out what made him sad. Arya retraces the night and discovers that he became upset when the sewer rat tried to steal his evil intent. She questions the Duke and wants to know if the rat's words had hurt his emotions. Lloyd smiles, amused by his little wife. They arrive at a large mansion, and he explains that he grew up here. Arya imagines a younger version of her husband and laughs in happiness. Lloyd glances at Arya and thinks about her words. The sewer rat hadn't upset him, but forced the Duke to accept the truth. Lloyd had been living in delusion, thinking that his evil intent could be purified. He thought he could live a normal life like others, but now knows that he will always live in hell. He grabs Arya's hand, unwilling to let her go. The girl had appeared in his life, filling his dark world with colors. Lloyd knows she is a sweet poison, but he is unwilling to let her go. The prince, who had never believed in miracles, thinks Arya is his salvation. From a young age, Lloyd had never celebrated his birthday. He was only 5 years old when he came across a book called The Spell of Self-Sacrifice. From that day, the young Lloyd had decided to die. He planned to end his life the day he received the Duke's power and cut off the long line of evil intent. Our male lead returns to his childhood home, prepared to fulfill his young dreams. Lloyd had been greedy for a while and refused to recite the spell he learned since he was 5. He had found hobbies and was unwilling to let go of his family or friends. Now, the prince is ready to end his life and leave with the good memories. He strangles his own neck as he recites the death spell. Suddenly, there is a flash of red light, and our male lead is filled with intense pain. Lloyd wishes he could scream, but he has to endure this torture and end the terrible suffering. The next second, the young boy suddenly faints. The next time he awakens, he discovers that his power is still intact. Lloyd consoles himself, knowing he wouldn't succeed on the first try. He panics as he notices the strange silence that fills the air. The boy is terrified because it seems like he is the only living person on Earth. He runs through the mansion but can't find a single soul. The prince can see traces of people, but they seem to have vanished, just like the sewer rat. He is afraid he might have lost control and killed everyone with his evil intent. The prince, afraid of losing Arya, rushes to her room, but it is too late and the girl is already covered in blood. Lloyd falls to his knees in pain as he holds his beloved's body. Just when we think our heroine is really dead, we see the girl lying in bed while feeling lonely. Arya thinks about her own little family in the duchy. She almost cries when she remembers that her marriage is just a contract. After the Valentine's curse is lifted, she will have to leave after 6 years. Suddenly, the princess hears a strange sound from Lloyd's room and assumes that they are under attack. She thinks it might be the scheming emperor and scolds the man as she rushes to Lloyd's room. Arya steps inside, but sees the boy sitting on his bed. She feels relieved and approaches him, wondering if he had a bad dream. Her heart aches when she sees the prince crying because he never reveals his emotions. She holds his trembling hand and smiles brightly, trying to comfort the prince. Lloyd suddenly turns around and says he wants to live with Arya. Our heroine is surprised and finally realizes why she always felt so lonely. She thought she had accepted her death and was ready to leave the duchy, but the girl actually wants to stay with Lloyd and grow old with him. She looks sad as she reveals that she also wants to live. Arya is unwilling to die and leave Lloyd behind. After expressing his desire to live with Arya, the prince soon feels ashamed. The girl is curious about his dream, but he turns his red face away, unwilling to speak to her. Arya teases him, wondering if he feels shy because he cried. The prince turns into a ripe strawberry as he warns her to forget that memory. The girl refuses and says he doesn't need to be embarrassed. She thinks they already know everything about each other, but Lloyd seems to be keeping a few secrets. Arya continues to disturb him, and the Duke is forced to tell her about his nightmare. Lloyd admits that he had found a self-sacrifice spell when he was young and planned to end his own life. He had recited the spell in his dreams, but lost control of his evil intent. His power had exploded and destroyed everyone in the Valentine Castle. Even his beloved Arya had also died. Now we finally know the cause of the Valentine disaster. Our heroine is invested in the story and wonders why the prince lost control. Lloyd thinks he went berserk because the evil intent was unwilling to be destroyed. The Duchess suddenly becomes fierce as she questions Lloyd for trying to end his own life. The prince panics and explains that it was just a childhood dream. He has already changed his mind and now plans to live. Arya is stunned because she has finally found the cause of the Valentine disaster. The girl had always thought an outsider attacked the duchy, but now realizes that Lloyd's evil intent exploded after he tried to end the curse. In her past life, the prince was the only survivor and had to carry the guilt of killing his family. He had tried to save everyone by sacrificing his life, but ended up being the cause of their death. The Duke, unable to bear the burden, became addicted to drugs and listening to the siren's song. He couldn't end his life because the evil intent might destroy the world, and so he chose to go mad instead. Arya is interrupted by Lloyd, who has a worried look on his face. The Duke panics because his wife seems to be crying again. He apologizes for making her sad and promises to remain alive. Lloyd would rather destroy the world than sacrifice himself again. He wants to live with Arya, even in a ruined world. Our heroine hugs the Duke, making his ears turn red. She notices his racing heart and knows the man must have been very scared. Arya can't understand why she also died because in her past life, she never went to the duchy. She wonders if it was really just a nightmare. The girl is still trying to comfort the Duke and decides to sing him a lullaby. The boy feels despair because his wife is treating him like a child. Arya points out that his father also listens to her song. She decides not to sing if Lloyd dislikes it, but the Duke immediately changes his mind. He lies in bed like an obedient child and urges Arya to sing for him. Our heroine begins her song, but the Duke keeps staring at her. She yells at him to close his eyes, but the boy suddenly drags her into bed. Lloyd urges her to sleep beside him, saying her presence is all he needs. The poor girl turns red and knows she will never be able to sleep. Meanwhile, at the other side of town, Hans is celebrating his new freedom. He was forced to serve the rat for 4 years, even though the man's plans were always reckless. The wizard cries because he is finally free from that rotting corpse. He thanks Arya for changing his life and vows never to commit another sin. The man is jumping around in happiness when a dark figure suddenly approaches him. The mysterious figure has been listening to his little speech and invites the wizard to join his team. Hans refuses because this mysterious force has been supporting the sewage and feeding them information. They convinced his master to go after the evil intent, which caused his death. Hans is sure the secret forces have always been coveting his powers. Unfortunately, he can't refuse the man and is soon dragged to meet their master. Vincent contacts Arya through the magic ball but notices her swollen red eyes. The girl secretly blames Lloyd for ruining her sleep. She questions the prince because he also looks tired. Vincent reveals that he stayed up all night to solve the mystery box. He looks proud as he shows Arya the content, but all we see are a few shabby papers. He tries to explain the meaning, but our heroine falls into a daze. She calls the documents trash, causing Vincent to nearly die from anger. We can almost see the smoke coming out of his ears. He explains that a precious musical sheet was hidden inside the mystery box. The second prince begins to sing, but his horrible voice almost causes Claude to lose his soul. Arya's face turns black as she is assaulted by his terrible singing. She tries to teach him how to sing, but her efforts are wasted on the tone-deaf prince. Claude says his ears are about to be destroyed, and our heroine calls it a song from hell. Vincent yells at them and says it is the Song of Hope. Arya has never heard of this song, but is sure it belongs to the Sirens, since the music sheet is from Atlantis. The girl becomes excited because she only knows the songs her mother used to sing. She finally realizes that other siren songs might exist. Vincent says there is more, and Arya tries her best to stop him. The prince refuses to listen as he begins to sing again. Suddenly, he hears a strange voice warning him to stop. Arya is so traumatized by his singing that she finally reveals that she can speak. Vincent has always been suspicious because everything changed when she first appeared. The girl had planned to tell him, but his horrible singing had forced her to spill the truth. The prince is still complaining, so Arya tries to distract him by singing. Vincent is shocked by the song and decides to come over. Arya is waiting for the prince to arrive, but instead receives some unexpected visitors. The entire Valentine family has arrived at the castle. Tristan has heard about the Emperor's scheme, and he shakes his daughter around, trying to find some injuries. The jealous Lloyd immediately attacks his father, hiding his little wife in his huge arms. The Grand Duke suddenly begins to cry, frightening the two children. He accuses Lloyd of abusing his old and feeble father. Arya immediately becomes worried and scolds her husband for hurting the Grand Duke. The boy feels aggrieved because he knows his father is pretending. Tristan might have lost his evil intent, but his body is still as strong as a monster's. The Grand Duke shamelessly asks Arya to blow his injury. His plan fails because the Duchess used this scheme a year ago. Sabina mocks her husband for his low-level tricks. She immediately uses her face card, urging Arya to take a walk with her. The men watch in shock as their little princess is seduced away by the Grand Duchess. Sabina says she came to see Arya as she steals the girl away. The two are interrupted by a sick-looking Kaelin, and the man is about to go crazy. After hearing about the Emperor's attack, he was forced to use his energy to teleport everyone to the capital. The poor man cries as he scolds Arya for changing the future. The Duchess, stunned by his words, demands an explanation. Kaelin reveals Arya's ability to change the future, making the Grand Duchess curious to know more. Our heroine glares at him threateningly, warning him to keep his mouth shut. The spellcaster pretends not to see her as he reveals that the girl has changed the natural laws. Sabina teases him, asking if he was wishing for her death. The poor man panics and tries to defend himself. Arya watches as he keeps talking, but he is only digging his own grave. Kaelin gives up on explaining because it is too late to undo her mistakes. He whispers to Arya that she will face the same destiny and will pay an even greater price. Our heroine is shocked to hear his secret whisper and wonders if the man is cursing her. She soon realizes that it is a secret warning. Poor Kaelin almost faints when he hears Lloyd's voice behind him. The Duke and his father have heard his secret warning and accuse him of wishing for their princess's death. The spellcaster jumps around in anger because everyone seems to be twisting his words. The Grand Duke glares at the man, asking why he is so upset. Kaelin is furious and decides to leave, wishing Valentine eternal glory. Unfortunately, Tristan grabs his hand and refuses to let him go. He asks the spellcaster to follow them to the palace, and this time, Kaelin really wishes he could die. Everyone knows a spellcaster is a criminal, so dragging him into the palace is just using him as a sacrifice. Tristan ignores the man's panic and asks Lloyd about his plans for the king. Our male lead has already threatened the Emperor and says he will listen to them no matter what they demand. The Grand Duke says he wants to kill the king, causing Kaelin to almost lose his soul. Tristan urges the spellcaster to make a fake puppet that looks just like the king. He is afraid the Grand Wizard will discover the fake king, so he also plans to kill the man and turn him into a puppet. The Grand Duke is filled with an evil aura because the king had dared to bully his daughter. Arya is tempted to remind the man that she isn't his daughter, and it was also his son who almost died. She realizes that the Duke might not be worried about Lloyd because he knows the sewer rat would never defeat the evil intent. The girl pulls her husband away, planning to have a secret conversation with him. Arya is curious about the true nature of the evil intent, because only the Grand Duke and his successor know the hidden secret. For the first time, Lloyd refuses to reveal anything and even acts like a cute bunny. Our heroine's heart escapes from her chest and flies towards the adorable man. She tries to act nonchalant, but is still shocked by her husband's sudden cute behavior. Arya guesses that Lloyd has taken a vow of silence since he refuses to say a word. Her father had forced the nobles to make this vow when he used her mother as a siren. Once they made this vow, they couldn't say anything, or even write about the secret because it would lead to their death. Arya decides to take a guess and wonders if the evil intent is a form of demonic energy. She abandons the idea because the Valentines are already treated like demons and wouldn't hide such a secret. Arya is sure it is the opposite. Their evil intent must be a strong, sacred power that could even purify the Chimera. The girl is furious as she wonders who forced the demons to hide the truth about their sacred power. She questions Lloyd, thinking it might be the Emperor or the Kingdom of Garcia. But our heroine falls into despair as she realizes that it must be the whole world. Arya is sure even the nobles aren't aware of this secret. Only the most powerful people in the kingdom, like the king or pope, will know about the vow of silence. It turns out the whole world had agreed to make the Valentines the villains. Arya finally understands why the king tolerated Lloyd, but she still feels upset for the duchy. The Duke isn't concerned as he believes they are being punished for his ancestors' sin. The girl points out that Lloyd isn't guilty, and the price has already been paid. She is unwilling to watch her husband being bullied, so she drags him off to see the Emperor. Lloyd can almost hear his wife grinding her teeth in anger. Arya is upset by the unfair treatment and now supports her father-in-law's plan to turn the king into a puppet. The Valentine family all head to the palace to threaten the Emperor. Tristan gives the man two options. The king can die by his hands or be killed by his son. The Grand Duke says he has lost his powers, so he might not give the king a quick death. He urges the man to choose his son. Lloyd smiles like a demon and claims he isn't used to his powers. He is afraid he might hit the wrong spot by mistake and cause the king eternal pain. The Emperor trembles in fear as the two demons force him to make a choice. The weak coward is unwilling to pick any options. The king recalls a scene from his childhood. Back then, the previous emperor had told him several times never to offend the duchy. But Conrad had looked down on the Valentines because he thought they were bound by the curse. He never imagined that the men he despised would one day threaten to kill him. Tristan says his final goodbye to the king, acting like a loyal subordinate. He says the emperor is going to die, but he will forever live in their hearts. Conrad is terrified, but tries to convince himself the men are just joking. Just then, Tristan calls someone over and the king panics when he sees a spellcaster. He questions Kaelin, who is also upset to be there. The spellcaster says he is never doing this again. He has to cover himself with magic spells just to avoid the wizard tower. Tristan is tired of his complaints and urges him to finish his mission. Conrad tries to threaten them, but the Grand Duke isn't afraid. He is sure the other kingdoms will overlook this issue just because they are Valentines. The emperor falls to his knees and begs them not to end his life. He even promises to treat them as saviors of the empire. The two men are not interested in his offer, but Arya wants to accept the deal. She wants the Valentines to be treated as heroes and not villains. Tristan quickly changes his mind and says he is also interested. Arya doesn't expose the big liar and happily asks for a private meeting with the king. Conrad seems to have seen his savior, and he quickly agrees to the girl's request. Lloyd, afraid his wife might be harmed, insists on staying by her side. Arya urges him to leave, explaining that the mermaid pearls he is wearing will hurt her when she sings. Lloyd quickly tries to take them off, but Arya stops him by pressing his lips. She tells the prince to trust her, since he can hear her song wherever he is. Lloyd's ears immediately turn red as the boy runs away from the room. Arya is left alone with the evil king, and the man complains about Valentine's madness. He feels relieved because he thinks Arya is on his side. The emperor is still complaining when he suddenly sees the girl standing right in front of him. The man is frightened at first, but soon begins to admire her beauty. Just then, the gorgeous girl suddenly says she wants to break his legs and lock him in a cage. The emperor is shocked as he discovers that the girl can speak. Arya had planned to give the king a quick death, but now she changes her mind. Even killing him and turning him into a puppet seems like an easy death. Our heroine suddenly steps into the magic circle, causing the king to panic. He orders his guards to catch her, but the knights are all frozen by her magic. Arya smiles like a devil as she begins the song of destruction. Black magic fills the room as she curses the king to fall into eternal darkness. Arya still recalls the despair she felt in her past life. The Garcia Knights, obsessed with righteousness, didn't spare the people of Pineda. The citizens were forced to watch as their empire crumbled and died. Filled with endless anger, Count Cortez, unwilling to suffer, quickly abandoned his own daughter. He even gave the king the mermaid tears. Every day, Conrad would wear those pearls while listening to Arya's song. He wanted her to have a painful death and forced her to sing until her throat was destroyed. The siren was tormented and even prayed that an angry mob would find and kill her. Unfortunately, the king kept her alive and tortured her right until she died. This time, Arya is here to get her revenge. Her father had once said that living with vain hope was worse than death. Therefore, she refuses to let the king die and wants him to live a life worse than death. She had always thought about singing him the song of destruction because she wanted him to live in endless pain. With every breath he takes, he would fall into despair and beg for death. But when he is about to die, he would suddenly be filled with endless hope. Arya is covered in blood, but she looks happy. She wants the king to keep living in an endless despair that he can never escape. Lloyd can't sense Arya's mystical energy, but he can hear her voice filled with hatred. He finds it strange because she had found the magic circle and seemed to have a grudge against the king. He suspects that she has a connection with the emperor, but finds it impossible. Just then, the door opens and the girl, covered in blood, falls into his arms. The Duke panics, but Arya says she is just weak. She looks proud as she announces that the king is suffering. Lloyd is worried about his wife, so he takes her away. He orders the spellcaster to clean up their mess, but the man complains. The prince glares at him, and Kaelin immediately becomes obedient. Secretly, he cries over his pitiful life. Back at the mansion, Arya meets an upset Vincent, and the two have a staring contest. The prince is still upset about her deceit, but is also concerned about the mystery box. Arya asks him to focus on the box, and the boy immediately yells at her, calling her selfish. He looks heartbroken and even refuses to look at the princess. Arya can tell he is very hurt, so she feels guilty for lying to him for many years. She grabs his hand, apologizing for her lies and thanking him for his help. Vincent tries to act nonchalant, but his red face completely betrays him. He quickly changes the topic, asking about the pearl map she received from the madman. The prince wants to know everything about her first trip to the Siren Land. Arya says she fell asleep with the pearl in her arms and woke up in Atlantis. After picking up the mystery box, the building collapsed and she woke up with the box in her arms. Vincent seems to have confirmed his guess and tells Arya that the song he found inside the box was made by a siren. He thinks it is impossible to find Atlantis, and only those that can sing the Song of Hope can reach the city. Of course, the prince is also trying to defend his terrible singing. He tells Arya that the Song of Hope can lead her to Atlantis. Arya looks happy, but the prince is more excited. He forces the girl into her coat and urges her to begin her search for Atlantis. Vincent shows off his knowledge, causing the princess to glare at his arrogant face. Arya wants to meet the owner of the conch again, but the prince protests. Vincent thinks the man must be a fraud and is afraid he might harm his sister. Our heroine insists on meeting him because she thinks he might have more information. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the king finally wakes up. His doctor was worried because the king fell into a deep sleep after the Valentines left. Conrad is shocked when the man says he has been sleeping for 2 days. He thinks he might have fainted from fear because of the Valentines. He remembers Arya asking for a meeting, but he can't recall anything else. The king is feeling grateful that he is unharmed, when he suddenly hears a strange voice cursing him to die. Conrad panics and attacks the doctor, thinking the man is the culprit. The doctor tries to prove his innocence, but Conrad slashes his neck. He says he will never be destroyed and vows to become the greatest emperor in Pineda. The king remembers his promise to appoint the Valentines as heroes, so he calls for his assistant. He is upset because he knows the Holy Empire will scold him again. Conrad vows to get his revenge on the Valentines and make them disappear from history. Just then, he hears that strange voice again, cursing him to die. The king falls to his knees in fear as the strange song invades his mind. He cries for mercy, but no one will save him. The emperor's palace is filled with an awkward air as the nobles gossip about this strange event. Conrad reads the commendation speech with a terrified face because he can feel Lloyd glaring at him. The ceremony finally ends, and Arya stares at the Grand Duke, wondering why he didn't receive the award. Tristan expresses his disdain, but immediately changes his attitude when Arya looks upset. He suddenly acts sad and says he doesn't deserve the award. Meanwhile, Vincent is holding a magic stone and recording Lloyd's angry face. He has always wanted to show Arya his brother's demonic look. Our heroine can't see the large demon behind her and insists that her husband is a sweet angel. The second prince finally realizes that the princess might also need some glasses. Lloyd interrupts their argument and crushes the magic stone to pieces. Vincent is horrified because the magic stone is supposed to be unbreakable. He immediately hides in a corner, trying to avoid the demonic couple. Arya knows the Duke doesn't like the attention and thanks him for agreeing to her request. The princess doesn't want him to be called a devil and hopes he can receive the praise he deserves. She knows the nobles still dislike Lloyd. They only attended the event because of their curiosity. Arya glances around but suddenly sees an unexpected face. The Saintess has also attended the commendation ceremony. Arya still can't believe that Veronica was the villain who caused her death in her past life. Just then, the girl rushes to Arya and grabs her hands with a happy smile. She acts familiar and even thanks the Duchess for helping her knight. Arya is shocked by the girl's move and thinks the Saintess is trying to scare her. Our heroine also smiles and thanks Veronica for sending her a loyal and sweet knight. Behind them, Lloyd is unhappy to hear his wife praising another man. Arya feels proud because the Saintess looks unhappy. She expects the girl to reveal her true nature, but Veronica grabs her hand and calls her a kind princess. She seems to have found her soul sister and praises Arya for helping her knight. Lloyd watches with an angry look as the two ladies talk about Gabriel. The princess pretends to be shy as she says the priest must be close to Veronica. She is mocking the Saintess because Gabriel has spent more time with her. The Holy Maiden isn't upset and even wants Gabriel to have a closer bond with Arya. Our heroine is shocked as she recognizes the look on Veronica's face. The Saintess has abandoned Gabriel. Then Arya thought the Saintess, desperate to increase her powers, would want to meet Gabriel. She finally realizes that the girl might have found another way to steal divine power. Veronica is afraid that Arya might figure out her plan, so she apologizes to the Duchess. She claims to be satisfied with her little amount of divine energy. Arya is thinking about the Saintess's plan when the girl suddenly rubs her skin. Our heroine is horrified and Lloyd immediately looks annoyed. He is certain that the girl must have played a trick, but Veronica pretends to be innocent. The group is interrupted as the cardinal arrives and calls the Saintess away. Arya guesses that man must be here to scold the Emperor for making the Valentines heroes. The two are about to leave, but Veronica suddenly tells Arya to take care of Gabriel. Once again, she praises the Duchess and calls her a fairy. Lloyd is upset by her words, and even Arya thinks the Saintess's behavior is strange. The Duke complains about that piece of trash while Arya tries to soothe his anger. They don't notice the Saintess watching them with a malicious smile. The girl seems to be planning something evil, but we will only find out in the next episode. And if you want to see the next part, comment villain below. Until next time, ciao.